Chapter 1107. If Yun Jian's words had been taken as a joke by everyone present at the beginning, then Yun Jian's words had been taken as a joke by Li Hang, but Yun Jian had acted out her words. From this point alone, everyone present no longer dared to doubt Yun Jian. What a joke. Just now they had thought that this girl looked sweet, and that her harsh words just now must have been a joke. But in the end? Not only did she tell the superstar Li Hang to get lost, but Li Hang refused. She actually took out a knife from her pocket and cut Li Hang's wrist. That wasn't all. She even stepped on Li Hang's wrist. Oh my god, this could kill someone. Wasn't she afraid that someone would die? And the person being stepped on was the superstar Li Hang. Everyone present was scared silly. Even the bodyguards and his female manager who were supposed to rush up to protect Li Hang stood rooted to the ground in a daze. They were so overwhelmed by Yun Jian's aura that they didn't dare to move. Feeling that the blood in his body was flowing out at a rapid rate, and that no one around him dared to come and save him, Li Hang was so scared that he almost peed his pants. He was interested in Yun Jian, and this was purely on the premise that his safety could be guaranteed. But now his safety couldn't even be guaranteed. Li Hang was extremely regretful now. He didn't expect Yun Jian to be so fierce. Last time, Ce had broken his wrist, which had scared Li Hang to the core. But this time? He originally thought that Yun Jian would be easier to deal with because she was a girl. But who would have thought that she was even more ruthless than Ce? This attack was meant to take his life. If the blood in his body ran out, even a god wouldn't be able to save him. I was wrong. Please let me go. Let me go. It's my fault. I'm a pig. I didn't know what was good for me and wanted to hit on you. Feeling the blood in his body flowing out rapidly, Li Hang was scared. He couldn't care about anything else. He just wanted to live. So, regardless of how many reporters and fans were still looking at him, Li Hang begged Yun Jian for mercy in a cowardly tone. Seeing Li Hang beg Yun Jian for mercy in such a cowardly tone, the surrounding fans, including the female agent and the bodyguards, were all stunned. Li Hang had a handsome face, and later became famous because he played a rather handsome role in a movie. He had always been sought after by fans. But now, where did the handsome man in the movie go? Everyone present suffered a heavy blow. Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. She was not surprised at all. After hearing Li Hang's pleas for mercy, just as Li Hang was about to faint from excessive blood loss, Yun Jian released her foot from Li Hang's wrist. He left behind a sentence that made Li Hang tremble with fear. The next time I see you, I won't be wiping your wrist, but your throat. Yun Jian didn't hold back at all, so everyone present was dumbfounded as they watched Yun Jian leave. Yun Jian left quickly. Li Hang had not fainted yet. He was carefully helped up by his female agent. From now on, Li Hang's image in the hearts of his fans would definitely take a hit. Just as Li Hang was helped up and was about to be sent to the hospital, one of the onlookers suddenly recalled something. Looking at Yun Jian's disappearing back, he exclaimed in shock, "That's right. I remember now. She was the young lady who snatched the saber and killed the thugs when the mall was invaded by a few robbers half a year ago, causing a stir in Longmen City." Chapter 1108. When the person recounted how Yun Jian had killed the thugs, his voice trembled. Therefore, when these words were heard by everyone present, it was as if their hair stood on end and they were horrified. That young lady just now was the one who caused a commotion in Longmen City half a year ago? Someone asked loudly with his mouth agape. The person who had just spoken of this matter immediately agreed with him. It's true. I was at the scene when the thugs charged at us. You guys didn't see it, so you don't know. There was a woman who threw the young lady's mother to the thugs. Hey, guess what happened? The young lady was fighting with another thug, but when she saw that her mother was in danger, she killed the thug and blocked the knife that was coming at her mother with her hand. Although this place was secretly built by CE behind Yun Jian's back, that tender hand was cut and blood was still dripping from the start. She didn't even blink. Considering that Yun Jian did not want to be too far away who wasn't afraid of pain at all. CE had discussed with Gu Junjian when he built the other gangsters and even got Gu Junjian to give up an empty plot of land in his villa. That ruthlessness didn't seem like a teenage girl at all. One could take a shortcut to Gu Junjian's villa was listening to him. Even the celebrity, it was also due to Gu Junjian's strong support that CE could build his and Yun Jian's everyone present was dumbfounded when they heard what the person said. It was convenient to walk there as well. No wonder Yun Jian said what she did just now. Put down her bag. No wonder she dared to hurt was not at home at the moment. Why would she be afraid of him when she could even kill someone? Just as she reached Yun Jian's house, she saw Qin Yiru doing chores inside. The female manager beside him had already covered the wound on his wrist. Yun Jian before asking, the blood had stopped flowing. Didn't he come back with you? Once he thought of Yun Jian's ruthlessness just now, he felt a chill run down his spine. Yun Jian could not help twitching the corners of her lips at Qin Yiru's words. She actually knew how to kill. She was her biological daughter, that Yun Jian had let him go just now. Why was Qin Yiru nagging about CE instead of worrying about someone else stepped into the opportunity to bring up the matter again? He's gone out. Yun Jian was aware of it himself, despite what she thought. My dad has a friend who works in the police station. Qin Yiru did not stop mopping the floor. The incident back then was a big deal. It had been a while since they got married. I heard that the young lady has some status in the military overseas after the wedding. She seems to be a special forces soldier. Now that Qin Yiru was nourished by love, identity is her complexion and complexion were much better, so she can be considered to have acted impartially by killing him. Let's wait for AE to come home before we eat. Everyone present said as she came over after mopping the floor. Was that little girl from the military? Okay. At such a young age, she was actually a soldier. Xiao Yunju and the others were playing upstairs. Was a famous slashing god from after mopping the floor. They would probably have gone crazy and chased after Yun Jian for her autograph. How's he getting along with you now? The celebrity Li Hang was well known, but in Longmen City, Yun Jian's hand. Yun Jian's team monarch slashing god was even more famous than celebrities in the entertainment industry. It was almost 3 days before the middle school exams, but Qin Yiru was not like other mothers who were worried about Yun Jian's real combat had returned home. On the contrary, she did not mention anything about the results. A is someone worth trusting. You can hold on to him tightly. Don't let him run away. Qin Yiru said earnestly and looked at Yun Jian with a gaze that she had never shown before. Yun Jian was a little stunned by Qin Yiru's stare. Mom, I know, Yun Jian replied. A's already 20. He's a man, so there's always a need for puberty. Xiao Jian, don't throw a tantrum. I think A's a good kid even if, anyway, the two of you are going to be married in the future. If there's anything before marriage, it's fine as long as you take proper protective measures, it will be fine. It's fine if she gets pregnant. After she gives birth, I'll have nothing to do. It'll be more fun raising a child. Qin Yiru thought that CE had already slept with Yun Jian, and now Yun Jian was living under the same roof as CE. There were only the two of them in the house. Of course, Qin Yiru knew CE's character, so she said those words. It could be said that Qin Yiru already treated CE as her son-in-law. In spite of it, Yun Jian's cheeks were as red as an apple when she heard Qin Yiru's words. She did not expect Qin Yiru to say something like that to her. Yun Jian could kill without batting an eyelid and be fearless in the face of danger. Yet she blushed when she heard such things. When Qin Yiru saw that Yun Jian did not say anything, she spoke even more enthusiastically. It was only when CE entered the house that Qin Yiru stopped talking. Gu Junjian was busy with military matters now, so sometimes he did not even come home. Qin Yiru could understand that. Qin Yiru stopped talking when she saw CE. Then Qin Yiru called Xiao Yunju and the others down to have dinner around the table. Before returning to her and CE's private villa, Qin Yiru mysteriously called CE out for a few minutes. She did not allow Yun Jian to listen in. When they returned to her and CE's home, Yun Jian turned to look at CE and asked, "What did my mom say to you just now? Do you want to know?" CE curled his handsome lips mysteriously and said. Yun Jian nodded her head. Just as she nodded, CE pulled her into his embrace. Then he turned sideways and whispered something into Yun Jian's ear. Yun Jian's face instantly turned red when she heard this. Chapter 11:10. When you do it, make sure it's dirty. Yunjian blushed at what Qin Yiru said to Ce. Ce smiled at the sight before cupping Yunjian's cheeks and kissing her. Ce only gave Yunjian a peck. He did not do anything else. His Xiaojin was still young. 3 days passed in a flash and the senior high school entrance exam came as promised. The day of the senior high school entrance exam was unusually hot, probably the hottest day since the new year. In spite of it, the students persevered through the 3 days of senior high school entrance exam. Yunjian was always the first to finish the senior high school entrance exam. The other students were afraid that they would perform poorly during the exam, so they checked their papers multiple times. What about Yunjian? She did not even have to check her papers after she was done. Just as the 3 days of exams ended, Qin Sini, Zhang Xiaofeng, Ling Yichen, and Zhang Jian could finally relax from their hard work. Once the exams were over, the students packed up all their belongings in school and brought them home. The end of the senior high school entrance exam meant that Yunjian and the others had their break 2 weeks earlier than their usual summer break. Of course, they still had to make a trip back to school when the results of the senior high school entrance exam were released. Their classmates were about to enter different senior high schools. It was their parents who came to school to help carry the huge pile of textbooks. On the day after school ended, Ce drove over to help Yunjian. Ce returned to Hun Group the next day. Taking advantage of the break, Yunjian carried a small travel bag with a lot of things and left for Min City early in the morning. Yunjian went alone. Of course, she was going to Min City purely because she had promised Chuning and the others that she would go for a vacation. Since the summer break was not here yet, Yunjian had her break 2 weeks earlier than usual, so Chuning and the others were still in school. When Yunjian arrived, she directly called Chu Xiangnan, who had a mobile phone. Chuning and the others were still in class. When they heard that Yunjian was coming over, they immediately sent Chuning to the entrance of the military academy to pick up Yunjian. Originally, outsiders were not allowed to enter the military academy, but Chuning had talked to the guard for a long time. In the end, when the guard found out that Yunjian was part of the next batch of students to be admitted, he finally let her in. Phew, I finally brought you in. Chuning wiped the sweat off her forehead and led Yunjian to the military academy's training field. The other 5 members of Team Monarch were training on the field. Hearing Chuning's words, Yunjian stared at Chuning for a few seconds, then pulled away the red arc and sighed. You've gotten darker. Chuning was stunned for a moment before she realized that Yunjian was talking about her. She even patted Yunjian on the shoulder and said with a laugh, "Don't say it out loud." Then Chuning brought Yunjian to the field. After meeting up with the other members of Team Monarch, the group sat on the field that stretched as far as the eye could see, basking in the scorching sun. We don't have classes at night. Yunjian, where do you want to go? Do you want to walk around the streets of Min City? Or do you want to walk around our school first? Chu Xiangnan said with a laugh. Don't interrupt. Silly Chu Xiangnan. Chuning snickered at Chu Xiangnan. That was the new nickname she came up with for Chu Xiangnan, Chunan. Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled. Just as the group of people were laughing and making a ruckus, a sarcastic voice came from behind them. Yo, isn't this our famous Team Monarch? Ah, where did this little beauty come from? Hearing that, Yunjian turned around with Chuning and the others to see a ruffian boy taunting Chuning and the others while trying to flirt with Yunjian. Chapter 11:11. This ruffian was the guy from the invincible gang whom Chu Ning and the others had mentioned to Yun Jian when they returned to Xinjiang town. The guy was just an errand boy for the invincible gang named Peng Jingwei. Peng Jingwei and everyone in the invincible gang were proud to be a part of the gang. That was because the invincible gang had a super powerful existence. Chu Ning had mentioned this super powerful person to Yun Jian before. She said that Chu Ning and the others were no match for that super powerful person even when they teamed up. Other than Jiang Weiwei, everyone else was defeated. Even Jiang Weiwei was almost injured. One had to know that Jiang Weiwei was not weak. She was ranked second in Team Monarch in terms of strength. However, even when she and Chu Ning and the others teamed up, they could not defeat that person from the invincible gang. One could only imagine how powerful that person was. It was precisely because they had such a powerful member who could wipe out Team Monarch, a team that was rumored to be so amazing, that the invincible gang could be so fearless. Take Peng Jingwei for example. He was just an errand boy for the invincible gang, but he dared to speak to Chu Ning and the others in such a tone. It was all because the invincible gang had that person who defeated Chu Ning and the others alone. The invincible gang was extremely smug now. Peng Jingwei was indeed arrogant. He thought that the invincible gang was really invincible. Therefore, when he saw the Team Monarch members sitting on the field, he could not help but want to rush over and taunt them. However, he did not expect to see Yun Jian among the Team Monarch members. Peng Jingwei was stunned. There was actually such a beautiful girl in this world. Moreover, she was different from those girls and women who relied on makeup and fashionable clothes on the streets. Yun Jian's beauty was pure and natural. Peng Jingwei was completely mesmerized. That was why he leaned over to hit on her. Logically speaking, after hearing what Peng Jingwei said, Chu Ning should have hurled insults at him on the spot. However, after hearing what Peng Jingwei said, Chu Ning snorted. Pfft. Chu Ning burst out laughing. Of all people, Peng Jingwei had to say that Team Monarch was trash to Yun Jian? It was as if he was telling the strongest boss of Team Monarch that his team was trash and that he should leave with him. After laughing, Chu Ning pursed her lips and turned to Yun Jian. After a while she said, "Ignore him. He's trash himself." Chu Ning and the others were used to the invincible gang's mockery. They couldn't be bothered with the people from the invincible gang now. In private, they trained as hard as they could in order to improve their skills so that they could defeat the people from the invincible gang. Just as Chu Ning finished speaking and Yun Jian ignored him, Peng Jingwei panicked. "Ha, I say your Team Monarch is so trashy. Don't bring the beauty with you guys," Peng Jingwei said as he turned his sly gaze to Yun Jian. "Little beauty, aren't you blind to be with trash like Team Monarch when you're so pretty? Come with me. I'm from the invincible gang. It's the best team in our military school. Hey, what do you think?" Peng Jingwei said. He even wanted to reach out his hand that was as ugly as a black man's to hold Yun Jian's hand. Yun Jian frowned in disgust. She sat on the grass and did a light flip to avoid Peng Jingwei's hand. Under Peng Jingwei's watchful gaze, she stood up and sneered. "If my Team Monarch is trash, your invincible gang is worse than trash." Peng Jingwei shuddered at the mention of Team Monarch. What did she say? Chapter 11-12. She's from Team Monarch? Peng Jingwei's eyes widened in shock. There were 7 members in Team Monarch in Chuning, and the other 5 were already enrolled in the military academy. Due to his frequent encounters with Chuning and the other 5, Peng Jingwei had completely overlooked the fact that Team Monarch had a powerful slashing god. In Peng Jingwei's subconscious mind, there were only 6 members in Team Monarch, and these 6 were the ones who had been beaten to a pulp by the Invincible Gang's leader. With Yun Jian's appearance today, Peng Jingwei had assumed that she was one of the Team Monarch's relatives who had come to Min City for a vacation after the midterms. That was why he had said what he had said earlier. Who would have thought that Yun Jian would say something like, Team Monarch? If she was from Team Monarch, could she be the most powerful slashing god in Team Monarch? With her frail and weak body? Did you hear that? Don't compare Team Monarch with your trashy Invincible Gang. Hey Invincible Gang, what a country bumpkin name. Get the hell away from me as soon as possible. What's there to be smug about? Chu Ning patted her butt to get rid of the grass that stuck to her pants on the lawn. She stood up and walked to Yun Jian's side to wrap her arm around Yun Jian's shoulder as she sneered at Peng Jingwei. One could lose in terms of strength but not in terms of confidence. This sentence was verified by Chu Ning. Chu Ning's words were bold. Just as Chu Ning finished her sentence, Chu Xiangnan, who was sitting on the ground, stood up and walked to Peng Jingwei. Peng Jingwei was a grown man with a height of only 1.6 meters. Chu Xiangnan's height was enough to look down on him. Get lost UF***er. What bullsh** T Invincible Gang. I think you should just change your name to Trash Gang. Chu Xiangnan continued Chu Ning's words and yelled at Peng Jingwei. As he yelled, Chu Xiangnan even clenched his fist at Peng Jingwei, his knuckles cracking. Seeing Chu Xiangnan gesturing at him like that, Peng Jingwei gulped in fright. The only reason he could be so smug was because he was a member of the Invincible Gang. Peng Jingwei himself was not that capable. Therefore, when Chu Xiangnan gestured at him, he was so scared that he took 3 steps back. Then he pointed at Chu Xiangnan and the others and threatened them in an exaggerated tone. Just you wait. After saying that, Peng Jingwei was so scared that he turned and ran away. Ah, you're such a coward. Perhaps it was because Yun Jian and all 7 members of Team Monarch were present, but Chu Xiangnan felt much more confident. He laughed out loud when he saw Peng Jingwei running away. Chu Xiangnan even flashed his middle finger at the spot where Peng Jingwei had fallen. After that, he turned to look at Yun Jian. He patted his chest with a laugh and asked, "What do you think, Yun Jian? Was I particularly domineering just now?" When Chu Ning heard that, she also rushed to say, "He's not as good as me." Then the 2 of them stared at Yun Jian's glittering eyes, waiting for her comment. However, Yun Jian's eyes flickered. She curled her lips slightly, then calmly said, "Very naughty." After hearing Yun Jian's comment, Jiang Weiwei laughed out loud. Apart from Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan's group of clowns, the others laughed. At the side of a small path near a small forest in the school, a group of youthful boys and girls were standing there. All of them sat obediently on the grass, talking to a girl who was standing high above. It felt like a group of gang members were having a gathering. Suddenly, a figure rushed over recklessly. Chapter 11:13. Peng Jingwei paused when he heard the girl's low growl. Then he slowly walked over. It was obvious that this girl held a high position in the Invincible Gang. Miss GCI. I saw something incredible just now, so I wanted to come back quickly to report it to you. That's why I left so quickly, Peng Jingwei said. Just as he said this, the girl called Qi Si interrupted him. All right. Hurry up and say it. What incredible thing. This girl was called Gu Qi Si. She was the only daughter of the big boss of Min City's coal industry. She was a well-known figure in the military academy. This identity, coupled with her innate arrogance, made everyone present dare not speak up even if they were angry. They could only submit to her. At the same time, the reason why everyone present listened to this girl was purely because Gu Qi Si was not only the vice president of the Invincible Gang, but more importantly, she was also the younger sister of the Invincible Gang's president. Of course, Gu Qi Si was not the biological sister of the Invincible Gang's president, but the daughter of the Invincible Gang's president's family. To put it bluntly, she was the daughter of her father's business friend. As for the president of the Invincible Gang, he was also the strongest president of the Invincible Gang that Chuning said had defeated Chuning and 6 others single-handedly. His name was Duan Xinshan. Now, the Invincible Gang still looked like a proper gang, like a cult. Everyone in the Invincible Gang sat on the lawn, listening to the Vice President Gu Qi Si's teachings. After being interrupted by Gu Qi Si, Peng Jingwei hurriedly told her what had happened. Initially, when he mentioned Yun Jian, Peng Jingwei did not think that she was the killing god of Team Monarch. When Gu Qi Si and the rest of the Invincible Gang heard Peng Jingwei's words, they did not think that Yun Jian had anything to do with Team Monarch. However, when he mentioned Yun Jian's appearance, Peng Jingwei even made a very righteous comparison. That beauty? Diske, I've never seen such a beautiful girl in my life. As he said that, Peng Jingwei was intoxicated. Hearing this, Gu Qi Si was a girl herself. She was very dissatisfied and asked with a hint of jealousy, "Is she really that beautiful? What about me?" It was just a casual remark, but he did not expect Peng Jingwei to recall Yun Jian's beauty the moment he opened his mouth. He could not help but blurt out, "They're not on the same level. Her beauty is really..." Before he could finish, Gu Qi Si kicked Peng Jingwei away. Fuming, she led a group of people to Yun Jian's side, grumbling angrily, "What the hell? I want to see just how beautiful she is." Yun Jian had no idea that someone was leading dozens of people and was angrily rushing towards her. As it turned out, a girl's jealousy was terrifying. This was especially true for girls who were in puberty. They could develop to the point of no return just because of a small matter. At this moment, Yun Jian had already followed Chu Ning and the others to the military academy's canteen. It was already noon, time for lunch. In high school, one could order their own food and pay by swiping their card. Yun Jian was a guest, so of course Chu Ning and the others fought to treat her. Looking at the big lunch box that Chu Ning had ordered for her, consisting of 4 to 5 servings of meat and 2 to 3 servings of vegetarian food, Yun Jian paused. For ordinary students, they would order at most 1 meat and 1 vegetarian dish. Hee, let's eat. Chu Ning extended her chopsticks and called out. Then she dug into the food in her lunchbox. During lunch, Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan kept talking to Yun Jian about the Invincible Gang. "Yun Jian, you don't know this, but the Invincible Gang formed this gang because of us, Team Monarch. They didn't have a gang name at first. In the end, because Team Monarch had a name, they followed suit." Chapter 11:14. Chu Ning said with great interest. She even laughed a few times as she spoke. The Invincible Gang did not form a gang. When Chu Ning and the rest first entered the school, Gu Qi Si's gang got into a fight with Chu Ning and the rest. They were even beaten up by Chu Ning and the rest. They thought that after being beaten up, Gu Qi Si's gang would not dare to cause trouble again. Who would have thought that Gu Qi Si would ask Duan Qinshan, a senior who was in his 2nd year and about to enter his 3rd year, to help? Duan Qinshan had been in the military school for almost 2 years. In addition, he was a martial artist who had been trained since he was young. It was said that he had learned martial arts from a martial arts master, so he was even more powerful. Chu Ning and the rest fought with Duan Qinshan openly and lost. In the end, the 6 of them were no match for Duan Qinshan. Since then, Gu Qi Si's gang started to show off. With Gu Qi Si as the leader, they started the current Invincible Gang. Gu Qi Si even made Duan Qinshan the president of the Invincible Gang and rushed over to criticize my Yun Jian. This was done in a hurry. Angered by Gu Qi Si's words, and immediately started the Invincible Gang purely because Team Monarch is just a loser to us. They
We
felt
don't need
that
to
Chuning and the rest had a team and that sounded cool, so they started Chuning's words. They're just following the trend and foolishly following us, but she could see Yunjian's they don't even know if they're authentic. Jealousy welled up in her, and she could not help but open her mouth one after another and recounted everything that had happened in the military school. Team Monarch is a loser to us, you think so? Who had her back to Gucci. At the end of her story, Chuning suddenly flung the spoon in her hand away and stood up abruptly. She took a bite of the metal spoon that Yunjian flung away. Yunjian pursed her lips and actually pierced into the wooden dining table right under everyone's eyes. Said about the invincible gang was a little funny. The spoon actually pierced into the dining table with a flame. However, after Yunjian pursed her lips and smiled faintly, everyone on the scene was shocked. However, she had just scooped up a mouthful of bean and was about to put it into her mouth slowly and suddenly raised her eyes with her slightly raised lips. She spoke in a strange female voice. The sound of tables and chairs being overturned came from behind. After a pause, an unpleasant female voice came from behind. Did your Team Monarch bully our invincible gang's Peng Jingwei? Do you have a death wish? Do you think you haven't been beaten up enough by the invincible gang? If you want to cause trouble, you have to find a good reason. Gu Qixi took advantage of the fact that Peng Jingwei had been chased away by Chu Xiangnan to stir up trouble. Most of the students in the military academy were male, and all of them were quite strong. Therefore, when they saw Gu Qixi leading a group of people to surround the Team Monarch members, not only were they not afraid, but they even squeezed over, intending to watch the show. F***CK. When did we bully that guy? Chapter 11:15. Yun Jian's frivolous words and her strange moves gave everyone in the invincible gang, led by Gu Qixi, a fright, including the students having lunch in the canteen. Ever since Duan Qinshan from the invincible gang defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch and formed the current invincible gang, no one in the military academy dared to challenge the invincible gang. Duan Qinshan's battle could be said to have made a name for himself. Therefore, even if Duan Qinshan was not often in the invincible gang, the students in the military academy did not dare to provoke them. Yun Jian's actions just now had shocked everyone, partly because of her strange moves and partly because, why was this pretty girl so angry when she heard Gu Qixi say that Team Monarch was a defeated team? She was not even a member of Team Monarch, so why did she act as if she was? Yun Jian well said, we're on your side. Chu Ning shouted when she heard that. That's right. Chu Xiangnan and the other members of Team Monarch agreed. When Gu Qixi saw Yun Jian's beautiful face, she was indeed filled with jealousy. Especially when she recalled what Peng Jingwei said just now, Gu Qixi had the urge to get rid of Yun Jian. Therefore, Gu Qixi clenched her fists and glared at Yun Jian. After 2 seconds of silence, she said angrily, "Ha, you're just bluffing." It's just a bluff. Team Monarch is a loser. Everyone has seen it with their own eyes. Besides, you're an outsider. What right do you have to criticize us? Gu Qixi wanted to curse Yun Jian, but she held it in. She felt that compared to insulting Yun Jian directly, it was more important to maintain her image as a lady. You don't believe me, do you? Yun Jian crossed her arms. She lifted one leg and easily placed it on a table in the canteen. Then she extended her slender index finger and hooked it at Gu Qixi. Let's fight if you're not convinced. Today I'll show you trash from the trash gang what it means to be defeated. Yun Jian said, tilting her head. Her disdainful tone made Gu Qixi and the others' eyelids twitch. When Gu Qixi came back to her senses, she almost charged at Yun Jian, wanting to tear Yun Jian into pieces. What did she say? Did she say that the invincible gang was trash? She even said that the invincible gang was trash? Gu Qixi was shaking with rage. Unable to hold herself back, she was about to charge at Yun Jian when she was interrupted by Yun Jian. At the main entrance of the cafeteria, a well-proportioned and good-looking boy walked in with his back to Gu Qixi. This boy's looks were not bad and his silhouette was quite handsome. However, when this young man of about 17 or 18 walked in, the surrounding girls screamed, Duan Qinshan! Duan Duan Duan! Duan Duan Xian! Duan Qian had a lot of support in the military academy. Ever since he defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch single-handedly, his reputation grew. When Gu Qizi heard that her savior had arrived, she quickly turned and ran to Duan Qian's side. Then she reached out and grabbed Duan Qian's arm. She said coquettishly, Brother Qian, someone bullied me. It's her. It's her. Hearing Gu Qizi's voice, Duan Qian frowned and turned to look. He happened to see the girl standing in front with her arms crossed. His slightly furrowed brows suddenly loosened. The moment he saw Yun Jian, his eyes lit up. Chapter 11:16. Duan Qinshan was a rather cold boy. He looked as if he did not care about anyone or anything. It was precisely because of his cold personality that Gu Qixi was so infatuated with him and liked him so much. Although Gu Qixi and Duan Qinshan's relationship was because their parents were best friends, and the two families were business partners who interacted with each other. However, just because Gu Qixi liked Duan Qinshan did not mean that Duan Qinshan liked Gu Qixi. On the contrary, Duan Qinshan was annoyed by Gu Qixi, but he did not say it out loud. The moment Duan Qinshan saw Yun Jian, his eyes lit up. Yun Jian crossed her arms as she scanned Duan Qinshan. Her slightly curved lips, her fair and smooth skin that was as delicate as a newborn baby's, and her delicate and beautiful face. There was no man present who would not be attracted to Yun Jian. Especially in this military academy where there were more boys than girls, even an ugly girl would be worshipped to the heavens, let alone a delicate girl like Yun Jian. Gu Qixi saw Duan Qinshan sizing up Yun Jian and became even angrier. She forced herself to resist the urge to rush up and kill Yun Jian. She held Duan Qinshan's arm and shook it, then said in an even more coquettish tone, Brother Duan Qinshan, you bullied your sister. Brother Qian, she just bullied your little sister Qixi. Aren't you going to avenge her? The moment Gu Qixi called her Sister Qixi, everyone around them got goosebumps. Yun Jian also frowned subtly. Who bullied who? Gu Qixi, don't be the first to complain. Tsk, how disgusting. Chu Ning retorted rudely. Just as Chu Ning finished speaking, Duan Qinshan let go of Gu Qixi's hand and walked over to Yun Jian. Seeing this, Gu Qixi smiled slightly. She knew that her brother Qian would help her. However, just as Gu Qixi thought this, Duan Qinshan stood in front of Yun Jian and asked Yun Jian with a hint of indifference. What's your name? Yun Jian crossed her arms and glanced at Duan Qinshan. In terms of aura, she did not lose to Duan Qinshan at all. You don't need to know because I never tell trash my surname. Yun Jian's words made everyone around her stop for a moment. Was she crazy? Did she know who was standing in front of her? He was the legendary figure who defeated the 6 members of Team Monarch single-handedly, Duan Qinshan, who was even known as the young god of war. When Duan Qinshan heard Yun Jian's words, he raised his eyebrows and looked at Yun Jian in what he thought was a cool pose. He said in a muffled voice, "Ha, interesting." Just as he finished speaking, someone pointed at the door and shouted, "Ah, the instructor is here." Hearing this, everyone looked up. Yun Jian also turned to look at the entrance of the cafeteria. She saw a tall and burly man in his 30s hurrying into the cafeteria with several instructors in tow. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. The man in the lead was Yu Xiaoluo, a good comrade whom Gu Junjian had invited to a banquet. Yu Xiaoluo was leading the way with several instructors in tow. Just as they arrived, Yu Xiaoluo looked at Yun Jian delightedly. "Why didn't you tell us that you're coming to our military academy? Otherwise, we would have come to entertain you." Yu Xiaoluo was one of the strictest instructors in the military academy. Hence, the moment he said that, everyone was stunned. Who was she? Why did the instructors have to entertain her now that she was here? "Instructor, she was brought into our school by Team Monarch without permission. Our school doesn't allow outsiders. Are you going to punish Team Monarch?" Seeing that the instructor had arrived, Gu Chizi did not know what was good for her and asked. Just as she said that, Yu Xiaoluo frowned at Gu Chizi and snapped, "Punishment my ass. She's Team Monarch's slashing god and will be attending our school next semester. She's one of us." As soon as he said this, everyone present was stunned with fear. What? Chapter 11:17. Everyone present was stunned. After all, in their minds, Yun Jian was so beautiful that her skin was so smooth that it could be broken with a snap of the fingers. She was completely different from a Special Forces soldier. Usually, girls who could become advanced Special Forces soldiers were either tanned to the point that they looked like charcoal or ugly women without any salt. What about Yun Jian? From the moment everyone saw her, they thought that she must be some rich young lady who did not do any household chores. From her aura and the feeling she gave off, that was the case. However, when Yu Xiaoluo and the other instructors appeared, and Yu Xiaoluo's rather courteous tone towards Yun Jian, everyone present was completely shocked. While they were shocked, they were also shocked and terrified. Yun Jian, a girl who looked so delicate and weak, was actually Team Monarch's famous slashing god. She was Team Monarch's slashing god, the one who had caused the instructors to fight over her to join their team some time ago. Gu Chizi had initially said those words to Yu Xiaoluo because she wanted to use the excuse of girl's strength is always weaker than an outsider, into their frail body of Xiaoluo to punish Yun Jian slashing god from Team Monarch. Who would have thought that instead of getting Yu Xiaoluo to scold Team Monarch, her tone of suspicion and anger toward Yun Jian was obvious to everyone present. He had learned of an incredible matter. Yu Xiaoluo was stunned, Yun Jian was actually Team Monarch's slashing god. He looked at Yun Jian and said to Gu Chizi, which was already slightly agape, if it wasn't her, who else in this world could have wiped out the most powerful gang, including Duan Qinshan? They were completely dumbfounded. Black market all by herself. All of them looked at the scene unfolding before them in disbelief. Mercenaries and compared to Gu Chizi's forces with the as well as the horrified expressions of the students who were watching the show, Chuning and the others had relaxed expressions. Chapter 11 is amazing. Why was Chuning stood beside God so famous? She glanced sideways at Yun Jian's flawless face and said, as Chuning had heard of her name before. However, what they knew about there was a hidden smirk in his eyes that said, "Now you have nothing to say, right?" Team Monarch's slashing god title, had always been a competitive girl, but it was only limited to the time when she caught a glimpse of Chuning's gaze. She felt even caught by the chief instructor. Although she had just expressed a strong shock at Yun Jian's identity, was not known in Min-City military who was willing to be at a disadvantage. Moreover, the students had no way of knowing about it. He would not shed a tear until he saw the coffin. Slashing god was powerful, but no one knew how powerful she was. Then she sized up Yun Jian from head to toe. Her invincible gang had no idea how powerful Team Monarch's slashing god was. She gave off the impression that she was why they provoked the other 6 members of Team Monarch. Her favorite Chingij was staring at Yun Jian intently. He looked indifferent. The adoration in his gaze was obvious, but he did not refuse when Gu Chizi asked him to take on the 6 members of Team Monarch. Is she really the legendary slashing god from Team Monarch? Not refuse. The other 6 members of Team Monarch were all defeated by my brother Chen alone, not giving them any face as classmates. When the 6 members of Team Monarch were defeated by Duan Qinshan, although Duan Qinshan did not come out to ridicule them, he made Chuning and the others suffer from the ridicule of their classmates. Moreover, Duan Qinshan maintained his cold personality and pretended to be a handsome man of few words. Duan Qinshan's strength was not bad, which was why he liked to pretend to be a mysterious person. Of course, before Yun Jian appeared, Duan Xinchen's mysterious facade was quite successful. However, the moment Yu Xiaoluo finished talking about Yun Jian's legendary experience, Duan Xinchen's pretentious face froze completely. He did not expect that the girl he fell in love with at first sight would actually annihilate an entire gang alone. She had gathered two of the world's top assassin organizations to annihilate the internationally renowned Inferno Ring. This was really done by an underage girl? What? How is this possible? Instructor, are you kidding us? I heard that Inferno Ring was annihilated by Arjia Province's army, right? How could it be her? Gu Qixi was frightened by Yu Xiaoluo's words. She raised her hands in disbelief and stared at Yun Jian, who was standing not too far away, in horror. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and looked over with a sneer. Seeing Gu Qixi looking at her, Yun Jian revealed a strange smile. This smile made Gu Qixi shiver. Gu Qixi quickly retracted her gaze and looked at Yu Xiaoluo. She hoped to hear from Yu Xiaoluo that he had made a mistake and that such a powerful person was not Yun Jian. However, before Yu Xiaoluo could make a sound, Yun Jian snatched the right to speak. Yun Jian was standing not far away. She suddenly stopped smiling and looked at them with her clear eyes. Then she said indifferently, "If it wasn't me, could it be you, trash?" Yun Jian's words, coupled with her cold and beautiful face, made everyone stare at her for a few seconds. Gu Qixi was shocked by Yun Jian's rhetorical question. She already disliked Yun Jian. Now Yun Jian's words made Gu Qixi even angrier. Why are you so arrogant? Be careful, or I'll let my brother Qin beat you until you have to look for your teeth on the floor. Right after Gu Qixi said that, Yun Jian's knuckles cracked as she strode toward them and uttered a rousing statement. Chapter 11:19. As Yun Jian spoke, she was already walking towards Gu Qixi. The Invincible Gang bullied her Team Monarch members. Did they really think they could sit back and relax? Yun Jian's personality had always been like this. Don't blame her for being heartless. Today's incident, even if the Invincible Gang did not come looking for trouble, the Invincible Gang's president, Duan Xinchen, had beaten up Chu Ning and the others in front of the entire school, causing them to lose face. Just based on this incident alone, Yun Jian would never let the Invincible Gang off. Yun Jian. Seeing Yun Jian walk over, Chu Ning was extremely touched. The 6 members of Team Monarch had never asked Yun Jian to avenge them. Even if they had a strong teammate like Yun Jian, after being beaten up by the Invincible Gang's Duan Xinchen and losing face in front of the entire school, Team Monarch's first instinct was to fight back. The first reaction of Chu Ning and the others was to train their skills as hard as they could, wanting to win with their own strength. Of course, this was different from Yun Jian taking the initiative to avenge Chu Ning and the others. Yun Jian had already planned for this. Who would dare to touch her, Yun Jian's people? What are you trying to do? Gu Qixi was so shocked by Yun Jian's sudden move that she stopped in her tracks. She took a few steps back. With this step, Gu Qixi almost sprained her ankle and fell down. However, Gu Qixi managed to keep it in check. Cut the crap. Everyone from the Invincible Gang can come at me together, Yun Jian said frivolously as she stood on the spot with her arms crossed. Everyone from the Invincible Gang? Come at me together? There were 30 to 40 members of the Invincible Gang present. Moreover, everyone in the military school was naturally different in strength from the students in normal schools. It could be said that everyone's strength was on par with students like Chu Xiangnan. And Yun Jian wanted to take on 30 to 40 people alone? Was she crazy? What? You want everyone from the Invincible Gang to go against you alone? Great. Gu Qixi was still a little afraid of Yun Jian just now. Now that she heard Yun Jian's words, she almost clapped her hands and cheered. Gu Qixi originally thought that Yun Jian wanted to have a one-on-one battle with the Invincible Gang. However, they did not expect Yun Jian to be so fierce. She wanted to take on 30 to 40 members of the Invincible Gang alone. Most importantly, they had the strongest big brother Qin on their side. Even if she, Yun Jian, was made of steel, she would still lose to 30 to 40 of them. Gu Qixi was just about to direct everyone from the Invincible Gang to fight Yun Jian when Duan Xinchen pressed her shoulder down. Duan Xinchen pressed his hand on Gu Qixi's shoulder and stared at her perfect face, mesmerized, before telling Gu Qixi, "She's just a girl. It's not good for our Invincible Gang to bully her with numbers." Duan Xinchen's words made Gu Qixi's face darken immediately. "Brother Qin, you're actually defending her?" Gu Qixi shouted angrily. Seeing the actions of the few people present, the instructors did not stop them. Instead, they stood aside and watched the show. If it had been any other time, the instructors would have stepped forward to stop the students from fighting one-on-one in front of them. However, today the main character was Yun Jian and they did not say a word. You're not going to make a move, are you? Yun Jian stood where she was with a nonchalant smirk. After laughing, she suddenly stopped smiling. In the next second, everyone saw her figure flash. It really only took a few seconds. Duan Xinchen stood in his original spot and chased after Yun Jian's figure. By the time he saw Yun Jian's figure with his naked eye, he felt Yun Jian's foot land on his abdomen. With a bang, Duan Xinchen was kicked to the ground. Yun Jian, who had retracted her leg in time, sneered. Pretending to be a man who won't attack a woman? I'm sorry, but even if you don't fight, you won't be able to change your fate of being kicked out of the canteen today. Chapter 11:20. Yun Jian's words had exposed Duan Qinchen's actions and caused the members of the Invincible sect to panic. However, no one present was paying attention to Yun Jian's words. When the instructors saw the scene just now, they all straightened their bodies. Oh my God! Someone had seen Yun Jian kick Duan Qinchen away in a matter of seconds. He was so shocked that he was in a state of infinite fear. Gu Qixi had seen her most admired and adored brother Chen get kicked away by Yun Jian. Her entire body tensed up and her hands clenched into fists, as if she had seen something extremely terrifying. At that moment, everyone was not shocked by Yun Jian's action of kicking Duan Qinchen away. The people present were all people with strength. Usually there would be fights. Moreover, most of the people present would be able to kick someone to the ground. This wasn't a difficult move. The reason why the people present were shocked, terrified, and frightened was that their eyes were wide open in fear and shock. It was because of Yun Jian's speed. The distance between Yun Jian's position and Duan Qinchen's position was at least a dozen meters. The time it took for Yun Jian to charge over and kick Duan Qinchen away was definitely not more than 3 seconds. Even Duan Qinchen had used all of his strength was so fast that the naked eye could not capture it. But what about Duan Qinchen, who had defeated Chu Ning and the other 6 members of Team Monarch single-handedly, did not even realize that Yun Jian was standing right in front of him before he was sent flying. Just as everyone was in a daze, one of the instructors shouted in shock. A powerful person wanted to be powerful by the instructor's voice. She wanted to be more powerful than others. What was the most important led by Yu Xiaoluo had the same expression on their faces. When a powerful person faced off against another powerful person, for example, watched the scene unfold faced off against another sharpshooter. Even the instructors were heroes among men, elites among the strong, kings among the elites. Who was more powerful? Instructor Yu Xiaoluo's voice was heard again. Person faced off against another powerful person. This is the first time I've learned that the only thing that can reach such a level. Speed was the only thing that mattered who was more powerful. The students present were even more sharpshooters were to fight, even if the sharpshooter was 0. 1 second faster than the other, it would be the key to victory for the sharpshooter or even killing the other in one move. Yun Jian's strength might not be much greater than Duan Qinchen's. In fact, internationally, there were many people who were stronger than Yun Jian. But why was Yun Jian more powerful than them? She was only competing in speed, accuracy, ruthlessness, disability. Speed was speed. The speed that she displayed earlier was so fast that the naked eye could not capture it. It was also because of this frightening speed that Duan Qinchen could not even see Yun Jian's position. Naturally, he was no match for her. However, Duan Qinchen was a powerhouse who had defeated all 6 members of Team Monarch. Chapter 11:21. There was a reason why the instructors did not intervene when they saw Yun Jian challenge the invincible gang. After all, Yun Jian had made a name for herself and the instructors had gotten into a fight not too long ago to fight for her. Even the chief instructor had to step in to stop them before they were willing to let it go. However, the instructors had not seen Yun Jian except for Yu Xiaoluo. When they saw Yun Jian earlier, they had some suspicions in their hearts. It had to be said that Yun Jian's looks, coupled with her identity, were really hard to believe. That was why the instructors did not intervene just now. In fact, part of the reason was that they wanted to see how strong Yun Jian really was. However, reality proved that whether it was Yun Jian's strength or her methods, they were not disappointed. Not only were they not disappointed, but at this very moment, the few instructors present were completely shocked. Was she really just a teenage girl? That heaven-defying speed just now was too shocking, right? After Yun Jian retracted her leg, she did not look at Duan Qingshan immediately. Instead, she turned slightly to the side and glanced at the instructors behind her from the corner of her eyes. She pursed her lips slightly. "Instructors, are you satisfied?" Everyone thought that after Yun Jian attacked Duan Qingshan, she would continue to attack him or ask him to stand up and continue to fight. However, no one expected Yun Jian to turn to the instructors behind her and say what she had just said. Everyone present was bewildered. However, the instructors trembled violently and straightened their backs immediately. Several drill masters exchanged glances without leaving a trace. They were even more horrified and stunned. When they saw Yun Jian and Duan Qingshan arguing just now, the instructors should have intervened and stopped them. However, they did not. No one present had any suspicions either. The instructors had thought that they wanted to see Yun Jian's skills and that no one present would know the reason. However, they had miscalculated. Yun Jian was not only skilled, but the instructors also did not expect that her observation skills were equally shocking. When Yun Jian suddenly asked, a tall, thin and handsome instructor who had been tanned by the sun paused. Then he pursed his lips and replied, very strong. As soon as the instructor finished speaking, Yu Xiaoluo stepped forward to clear his name. Cough cough cough. Fighting is not allowed in school. Yun Jian was just joking with you. Let's stop here. If the instructors did not step up to stop the fight now that Yun Jian had called their names out of the blue, the students would realize that they had not stepped up to stop the fight at the first instance. Moreover, Yu Xiaoluo and the other instructors were obviously biased towards Yun Jian. After hearing Yu Xiaoluo's words, the instructors from the invincible gang did not dare to move. "Instructor, how is that a joke? My brother Qin is about to vomit blood from the kick." Gu Qizi was unconvinced. She pulled up Duan Qingshan, who had been kicked to the ground and was about to vomit blood, and said indignantly, "Then what do you want?" Yu Xiaoluo glared at Gu Qizi with a headache. "I want her to apologize to us." Gu Qizi could not remember how her good brother Qin had humiliated the 6 members of Team Monarch. Forget about an apology, Duan Qingshan did not even apologize to Chu Ning and the others. At this moment, Gu Qizi pointed her finger at Yun Jian. She was very confident that Yun Jian would be forced by the instructors to apologize to them. However, just as Gu Qizi spoke, Yun Jian's cold voice rang out. "Apologize? Sure." As she spoke, Yun Jian was already walking over. Chapter 11:22. As she watched Yunjian walk toward her and say, "Sure, apologize," Gu Qixi's smile became even more obvious. Indeed, under the gaze of the instructors, even Yunjian did not dare to be presumptuous. Wasn't she still walking toward her obediently and apologizing to them? The main thing is to apologize to my big brother Qin. You took advantage of the situation just now. If you hadn't taken advantage of the situation, my big brother Qin wouldn't have lost to you. When Gu Qixi saw Yunjian walking toward her, she thought that Yunjian's apology to the invincible gang was inevitable. Thus, she even reminded Yunjian to apologize to her big brother Qin. It was important that Yunjian apologize to her big brother Qin. That was not all. Gu Qixi was someone who would take advantage of others. Not only did she want Yunjian to apologize, but she also wanted to use this opportunity to tell everyone present. It was not that her invincible gang's Duan Qinshan was weaker than Yunjian, but that Yunjian had taken advantage of the situation and launched a sneak attack. That was how she won. At this moment, Yunjian was standing less than half a meter in front of Gu Qixi. At the thought that Yunjian was about to apologize to her, Gu Qixi smiled. Seeing that Yunjian did not speak, she waited for a while and then urged her, "Hurry up and apologize. Hurry up and apologize you." Before Gu Qixi could finish speaking, Yunjian's voice rang out. "Taking advantage of the situation? Are you referring to that?" Just as she said this, Yunjian reached out her right hand and raised it slightly. In the next second, she threw her right hand out and slapped Gu Qixi's face. This slap, along with Yunjian's words, caused Gu Qixi to fall to the ground. Her face burned from the slap. Gu Qixi did not react for a long time. Yunjian walked over and grabbed Gu Qixi's long hair with an expressionless face. She pulled Gu Qixi's hair and pulled her face close to herself. Then Yunjian smiled coldly. "You, how dare you hit me? Instructor Shi." Yunjian flung Gu Qixi away violently. Then he dragged his scalp close to Yunjian's head. She had just been overwhelmed by the pain and wanted to curse Yunjian viciously when she saw Yunjian's murderous eyes. Gu Qixi was frightened and hurriedly asked the instructor for help. However, just as Gu Qixi's cry for help sounded, Yunjian raised her hand and gave Gu Qixi another slap. She stopped Gu Qixi from calling for help from the instructors. Everyone present was stunned by Yunjian's ruthless skills. Even the instructors in the distance felt a chill run down their spines. Yunjian gave Gu Qixi a second slap. Just as she was about to give Gu Qixi a third slap, Duan Qinshan's male voice sounded from the side. "Qixi is my sister. Give me some face. Don't hit her." Duan Qinshan looked at Yunjian in a daze. Her sweet and pleasant face was mesmerizing. There were always people in this world who felt that they were some powerful figure. They felt that as long as they showed up, the other party would definitely give them some face. Hearing Duan Qinshan's voice, Yunjian was already giving him face by not laughing out loud. Yunjian loosened her grip, letting go of Gu Qixi's hand. Duan Qinshan thought that Yunjian was giving him some face, so she let go of Gu Qixi's hand. He was elated. As expected, she must be interested in me. Just as Duan Qinshan thought of that, Yunjian had already let go of Gu Qixi's hand and stood up. She glanced sideways at Duan Qinshan. At that moment, the murderous intent of a special agent was on full display. She looked at Duan Qinshan with her sharp eyes and curled her lips coldly. "I heard that you used martial arts to defeat the 6 members of Team Monarch." At this point, Yunjian smiled mockingly at Duan Qinshan and continued, "Then today I'll use martial arts to send you to your grave." Yunjian knows martial arts too. Chapter 11:23. Martial arts were different from taekwondo, sanda, and grappling. It required long-term persistence. Of course, mastering martial arts could improve a person's reaction speed and agility, which were essential in combat. Those who could learn martial arts usually started practicing when they were very young. Therefore, when they heard that Yun Jian actually knew martial arts, everyone present was completely shocked. Yun Jian, you actually know martial arts? Chu Ning, who was standing nearby, looked at Yun Jian in a daze and asked in surprise. Genius? She's a genius. She actually knows martial arts. Haha, she's now the daughter of my old comrade. My old comrade even instructed me to teach her well. She'll definitely join my team next semester. None of you are allowed to snatch her from me, haha. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Yu Xiaoluo became even more excited and quickly spoke up. This old comrade referred to Gu Junjian. Just as Yu Xiaoluo finished speaking, a few instructors beside him were very dissatisfied and were about to speak up to snatch Yun Jian away. Gu Chizi's discordant voice suddenly sounded. Her words were directed at Yu Xiaoluo, and her tone carried a hint of jealousy. Instructor, does she really know martial arts just because she says so? Martial arts isn't something that ordinary people can learn. My brother Chen's master is a reclusive expert. Back then he took brother Chen in as his disciple because he fancied his skills. My brother Chen is that expert's only disciple. How could he be compared to her? Moreover, it's not certain if she's learning authentic martial arts. After being slapped a few times by Yun Jian, Gu Chizi was furious. However, considering Yun Jian's skills, she didn't dare to step forward rashly. Therefore she spoke in a boastful tone. The way she addressed brother Chen was enough to show how proud Gu Chizi was at that moment. Especially when she mentioned that Duan Xinchen's master was a reclusive expert, the students present all gasped. Some of them even exclaimed, "Wow!" After all, in this era the term hidden expert gave people a lot of room for imagination. There were even some people who felt that hermit experts were existences that were on par with immortals. Hearing the exclamations of the surrounding students, Gu Chizi proudly raised his chin. Bragging about her brother Chen felt like she was bragging about herself. After Gu Chizi finished speaking, Duan Qinshan kept staring at Yun Jian. When Gu Chizi finished speaking, Duan Qinshan also said something that sounded very manly. I don't want to do anything to you. It wouldn't be good if I hurt you. Duan Qinshan's gaze dimmed slightly as he spoke. The way he looked at Yun Jian was extremely gentle, just like how a young man would look at a girl. Those who didn't know better would think that there was something going on between him and Yun Jian. Then let's fight. Yun Jian pursed her lips. Before she could say anything, a familiar and magnetic male voice came from the door. When he turned around, he saw Ce walking in through the cafeteria's main entrance. Mo Sen and Adam followed closely behind him. Duan Qinshan raised his brows. He saw the handsome Ce's tall figure suddenly appear and stand beside Yun Jian. A bad premonition spread throughout his body. Duan Qinshan furrowed his brows as he looked at the outstanding man in front of him and asked, "Who are you?" Chapter 11:24. The moment Ce finished speaking, Duan Qinshan's face turned as black as charcoal. She actually has a man. Duan Qinshan only had one thought at that moment. The girl that he had finally taken a liking to was already with a man. At that moment, Duan Qinshan saw Yun Jian nestled in Ce's arms in front of everyone. She lifted her head slightly and looked at Ce. She pursed her beautiful red lips and asked softly, "Why are you here?" Her soft, feminine voice melted Ce's heart. Ce's heart was about to melt. Of course, Yun Jian would only reveal such a girlish expression when she was with Ce. When Ce heard Yun Jian's gentle voice, he felt that even if she asked him to die, he would fulfill her request without hesitation. His face that was flat and emotionless as if it would be cold and emotionless for the rest of his life revealed a handsome expression that was only reserved for Yun Jian. "I'm here to sign up." Looking at Yun Jian's petite face, Ce almost kissed her tender lips in front of everyone, but he held himself back in the end. He looked at Yun Jian with a gentle gaze and spoke softly. "Sign up." Yun Jian raised her brows slightly and repeated in surprise. "Sign up? Our Min City Military Academy has a limited number of places, and students have to pass the high school entrance exam to be admitted. If you sign up so hastily, our school will not accept you." When he heard that Ce wanted to sign up for their school, Duan Qinshan felt like killing Ce. He looked at Ce's face, which was many times more perfect and handsome than his own. He had originally planned to pursue Yun Jian after she entered the school next semester. In the end, Ce had appeared out of nowhere and was even prettier than him. Duan Xinshan was extremely unhappy. On the other hand, Duan Xinshan knew at a glance that other than Yun Jian, the results of the middle school exams were not out yet. Even if Ce wanted to study in their military academy, he would have to see if he had the right to do so. How could he come to school just because he wanted to? Exactly. Our military academy isn't a place where you can just come and go as you please, much less an ordinary school where you can just spend some money to get into. When Gu Qixi saw Ce's handsome face, she was completely dumbfounded, just like everyone else present. How could there be such a handsome man in this world? It was just like when he saw Yun Jian. It was undeniable that when Ce walked to Yun Jian's side, the degree of compatibility between the two made everyone envious. They wished they could be one of them. Gu Qixi had the same thought, but she knew very well that she could not have Ce. Since that was the case, why not destroy him? Gu Qixi felt that she could not have him. She did not want Ce to enter the military academy and live happily ever after with Yun Jian. She would go crazy if she saw this scene. She wanted nothing more than to destroy him. The few instructors standing by the side frowned. However, at this moment, a middle-aged man in a suit ran in through the main entrance of the cafeteria, looking travel-worn. This middle-aged man was bald, but the hair on the side of his head was extremely lush. After the middle-aged man ran through the main entrance of the cafeteria, he looked around. The students present were stunned for a moment. Then, someone immediately recognized this middle-aged man. Oh my God! It's actually the principal of our school who hasn't shown his face for hundreds of years. The principal is actually in school today. A student shouted in surprise. Just as this student finished speaking, the bald middle-aged man caught sight of a tall figure. Then, he almost swayed as he rushed over with all his might. The middle-aged man used all his strength to run to Ce as fast as he could. Then, he bowed and respectfully handed a letter of admission to Ce. Chapter 1125. This middle-aged man was the principal of Min City Military Academy. His surname was Murong. Principal Murong was the principal of the military academy. He was a rigid person, but every student in the military academy knew that Principal Murong was a very righteous person. Furthermore, Principal Murong rarely appeared in the academy. Even if he did, he would only show his face. Even if he bumped into his classmates on the roadside and they greeted him with a greeting, Principal Murong would nod at them, but he would not smile. He had always been an experienced and steady person. But now, their military academy's famous rigid Principal Murong was actually acting as though he was meeting his superior. He was even more respectful towards Ce than when he met the country's leaders. It was as though he was deliberately trying to flatter him. Min City Military Academy was a famous school with a long history. The principal of Min City had always held considerable authority. In other words, even if the provincial leaders came down, Principal Murong would not need to flatter them. This was because Principal Murong's status was different from that of ordinary high schools. But now he was actually being so respectful towards a young man in his 20s. This scene was extremely horrifying in the eyes of everyone who saw it, especially Duan Qinshan and Gu Qizi. What they had said to Ce just now could be said to be absolute. They had used an absolute tone to tell Ce that a person like him had no right to study in their military academy. But Principal Murong's appearance now was like a tight slap to Duan Qinshan and Gu Qizi's faces. Duan Qinshan and Gu Qizi's faces instantly turned pale. At this moment, they were so ashamed that they could not find a place to hide themselves. Facing Duan Qinshan and Gu Qizi's embarrassment, Ce, who was hugging Yun Jian's slender waist, only reached out a hand and waved it gently. Mo Sin, who was behind him, understood. He stepped forward and reached out his hand to Principal Murong on behalf of Ce. "Give it to me." When Principal Murong heard this, he happily handed the admission notice to Mo Sin personally. Then he smiled and looked kindly at Ce. "Have you eaten? Do you want me to swipe your card?" Headmaster Murong said as he quickly lowered his head and took out a meal card from his pocket. "In school you can't get food without a meal card." "No need." Ce was a man of few words when dealing with outsiders. His eyes were fixed on Yun Jian, who was in his arms. As long as he saw his Xiao Jian, all his unhappiness was nonsense. After rejecting Principal Murong, Ce suddenly thought that his Yun Jian might not have eaten yet, so he looked down at her and asked softly with a gentleness that was completely different from when he was treating an outsider, "Are you hungry?" "I've already eaten," Yun Jian said as she pointed at the boxed lunch she was eating not far away. Chapter 11:26. Seeing Ce groping Yun Jian and even holding Yun Jian's hand as they walked to the dining table like a couple, Duan Qinshan could not take it anymore. Duan Qinshan had always known that he was outstanding and worked harder than others when he was young. When he grew up, he even became the representative of other people's children. Some time ago he even took on the 6 members of Team Monarch and was later given the title of Young God of War. All of this made him very confident and he looked at the people around him in a higher light. Duan Qinshan's standard for choosing a partner was that ordinary girls were not good enough for him. However, ever since he saw Yun Jian, Duan Qinshan felt that his spring had arrived and it was time for him to fall in love. Duan Qinshan felt that he had fallen in love with Yun Jian at first sight. Especially when Yun Jian stood in the crowd as if she was the king of the world. Duan Qinshan felt his heart roaring and boiling. Only a girl like her was good enough for someone as outstanding as him. However, Duan Qinshan did not expect that Yun Jian already had a man. Therefore at that moment, Duan Qinshan only had one thought and that was to get Ce out of his sight. He did not even consider why Principal Murong was so respectful to Ce. Just as Duan Qinshan finished speaking, everyone present looked over as if they were about to watch a good show. Principal Murong was originally respectful to Ce, but when he heard Duan Qinshan speak to Ce in such a tone, he was so scared that he trembled. "Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!" Principal Murong's face froze when he heard Duan Qinshan provoking Ce. He immediately yelled at Duan Qinshan. "This big shot is not someone you can provoke as you please." Principal Murong yelled at Duan Qinshan. Duan Qinshan was even more indignant after being yelled at by the principal. "I accept." Just as Principal Murong was about to burst into tears from Duan Qinshan's idiocy, Ce's deep and forceful voice rang with a hint of sharpness in his tone. "The big shot actually agreed?" Principal Murong nearly broke out in a cold sweat. Ce looked down at Yun Jian with a smirk as he lowered his tall body to Yun Jian's ear. "Xiao Jian, what do you want him to do if he loses?" Ce then continued, "Break his arm? Break his leg? Or break his head?" Despite the gory words coming from Ce's mouth, they sounded so serious. Everyone who heard this felt their hair stand on end. He could actually say such words in such a relaxed manner. Duan Qinshan could not help shuddering. If he loses, he'll get out of the school. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. Duan Qinshan took a deep breath. Compared to Ce's ruthlessness, Yun Jian was much gentler. Yun Jian had told him to scram, but compared to what Ce had said, Yun Jian did not break his limbs. Could it be that she was reluctant? Duan Qinshan could not help thinking that she must be interested in him as well. Chapter 11:27. Duan Qinshan's last bit of hope was shattered when he heard Yun Jian's words. Was he really that unbearable in her eyes? Whatever Xiao Jian says. Ce caressed Yun Jian's head softly. Yun Jian's hair was tied up in a high ponytail, looking spirited from both afar and close up. Usually there were many girls in school who liked to wear their hair down. However, many schools had rules that forbade girls from wearing their hair down and had to tie it up in ponytails. Many girls did not know that a girl's true beauty came from her heart. Just like this high ponytail, it gave off a domineering and spirited vibe. Yunjian liked to tie her hair up in such a high ponytail as well. The hairstyle suited her as well. Although she didn't look as feminine as some girls, she vividly reflected her unique beauty, which was something that no other girl could compare to. Ce stroked her hair softly, his movements smooth as well. Looking at Ce's gentle gaze, Duan Qinshan, who stood a distance away, could not hold himself back. Due to his confidence, Duan Qinshan told Ce, "Fine. If you lose, you're out of the military academy. If I lose, not only will I be kicked out of the academy, I'll cripple all my meridians and never practice martial arts again." Duan Qinshan's words stunned everyone present. "Chingij, are you crazy? Is it just for her?" Gu Qixi was shocked by Duan Qinshan's actions and roared at him with a finger pointing at Yunjian. "Qixi, move away." Duan Qinshan pushed Gu Qixi away and went to Ce. "No, I won't." Even if Gu Qixi was dumb, she could tell what Duan Qinshan thought of Yunjian. She would be dumb if she let go now. Duan Qinshan's gaze darkened. He could not take it anymore and his heart skipped a beat before he flung Gu Qixi away. "Qixi, stay out of my business." As he spoke, Duan Qinshan went closer to Ce. Ce smirked and rubbed Yunjian's head before leaning down to steal a kiss on Yunjian's red lips right in front of Duan Qinshan. Some of the people present even shrieked when they saw the scene. Wow. Duan Qinshan's heart wrenched at the sight as he bellowed and charged at Ce. "Go to hell. Go to hell." Duan Qinshan bellowed as he sprinted towards Ce without a care for his image. Ce's eyes narrowed. Sure enough, Duan Qinshan, who had been learning martial arts since he was a child and had even learned martial arts from an expert, was different from the people he had met before. Ah, they're fighting. They're so fierce. I think Duan Qinshan is going to win. Isn't that so? Duan Qinshan fought against the 6 members of Team Monarch a while ago and defeated 5 of them. The woman who wasn't defeated was defeated as well. That guy is probably just a pretty boy. He's just a little good-looking and doesn't have any real skills. Otherwise, why haven't we heard of his name? That's right. The chatter of the people present could be heard. Chapter 11:28. Duan Xinghen lifted one leg and used the other leg to spring up from the ground near Ce. Then he used both legs to propel himself forward. One of his legs was straight while the other was also off the ground. However, it was bent into a triangular shape and kicked towards Ce. At the same time, Duan Xinghen was extremely fast. Although he wasn't as fast as Yunjian, his speed was definitely in the top 3 among the colonels in Min City Military Academy. Duan Xinghen dared to fight in front of Headmaster Murong. Everyone present couldn't help but break out in cold sweat for him. However, Headmaster Murong wasn't concerned about a student breaking the school rules and fighting in public. Instead, he was concerned about Duan Qinshan, that bastard. He actually dared to provoke that big shot. Was he trying to get himself killed? Just as he was thinking about this, Duan Xingchen's kick was already in front of Ce. Everyone present sucked in a sharp breath. However, at this moment, Duan Xingchen's kick had just arrived in front of Ce. At this critical moment, Ce stared at Yunjian with a gentle gaze. Duan Xingchen already had victory in his hands and could send Ce flying with a kick. Ce suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed forward with his large, fair hand. He didn't even turn his head to look. That slender palm caught Duan Qinshan's 2 feet in front of him in an instant. He didn't even look up as he grabbed Duan Xingchen's leg. Everyone present was shocked by this action. He actually grabbed Duan Xingchen's leg without even looking. Duan Xingchen had also leaped into the air and kicked towards Ce. If Ce could grab Duan Xingchen's leg, it would be equivalent to lifting Duan Xingchen's entire body weight with one hand. Ce was tall and not fat at all. His body proportions were perfect. However, just by looking at Ce's figure, it was impossible to tell that he had such strength. Just as everyone was thinking about this, Ce suddenly grabbed Duan Qinshan's leg. He led Duan Qinshan to the side and threw him to the side. Boom. Not long after, Ce smashed Duan Qinshan onto the ground. His entire body trembled as he lay on the ground. He stretched out his hand, and without even looking at Duan Qinshan, who was about to kick him, he grabbed Duan Qinshan's leg and flung him away. His eyes were fixed on Yunjian the whole time. This was simply a blind arrest. With Duan Qinshan's speed, even if they saw it, it would be hard for them to react in time, let alone grab Duan Qinshan's leg and fling him away without even looking. Duan Qinshan's strength had been reduced to nothing by Ce at this moment. Cough, cough, cough. Duan Qinshan lay on the ground. His heart almost exploded from being flung away by Ce. Adam, destroy his meridians. He will never be able to enter Min City's military academy. Before anyone could react, Siyi's cold and emotionless voice rang out. Yes. Adam obeyed and walked over. Everyone present was so scared that their faces turned pale. Was he really going to destroy him? After Siyi finished his sentence, he grabbed Yunjian's hand and walked out of the canteen. Hey Yunjian, are you leaving? Chu Xiangnan stopped Chu Ning just as she was about to follow them. You're going to be a third wheel. Chu Xiangnan chuckled. At this moment, Yunjian had been dragged by Siyi to a small forest in the canteen. There was no one around. Didn't you say that the Inhun organization was busy? Why are you back so soon? Yunjian asked as she leaned into Siyi's arms. We're going to Yulong mainland tomorrow. I'll be back to accompany you. Siyi hugged Yunjian as he held Yunjian's hand. He looked at Yunjian tenderly. Chapter 11:29. Yunjian nodded after hearing Siyi's words. Just as she was about to say something, Duan Qingshan's blood-curdling screams and Gu Qizi's desperate cries came from the cafeteria. Ah, Brother Qin. Oh. Needless to say, Adam must have crippled Duan Qingshan's meridians and helped him fulfill his promise. Affected by the atmosphere, Siyi frowned and dragged Yunjian back to the military school cafeteria. Inside the military school cafeteria, Duan Qingshan's limbs were crippled and he lay paralyzed on the ground. Seeing this, Headmaster Murong, as the headmaster of the military school, should have stepped in to stop this, but he did not dare to say a word. It was Duan Qingshan's fault for messing with that big shot for no reason. Headmaster Murong did not dare to intervene at all. The instructors stood rooted to the ground and gulped. They saw Siyi pulling Yunjian into the cafeteria. Yunjian? Chu Ning shouted the moment she saw Yunjian. Yunjian had already returned to her original spot. Duan Qingshan's meridians were crippled in public and he was already unconscious, but Gu Qizi was still crying. You reap what you sow. Chu Ning said angrily as she glanced at the other side. Duan Qingshan had injured all 6 members of Team Monarch, especially Fang Xiaoran, who was the most severely injured and was still suffering from the aftereffects. Fang Xiaoran went to the hospital and the doctor said that the aftereffects would follow him for the rest of his life. At that time, Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan were both angry and resentful. Duan Qingshan had won the admiration of the entire school because of that battle, but he had severely injured all 6 members of Team Monarch and caused them to be despised by the entire school. Chu Ning and the others trained so hard because they wanted to defeat Duan Qingshan. It was precisely because of Duan Qingshan's cruelty that Chu Ning and the others did not feel any sympathy for him. On the contrary, they felt very satisfied. However, just as Yunjian stood in front of Chu Ning, Gu Qizi, who was crying at Duan Qingshan, suddenly stood up in hatred. She drew a knife from her waist and charged at Yunjian. Ah, you hurt my brother Chen, I'm going to kill you. Go to hell. Gu Qizi had adored Duan Qingshan since she was young. The way she saw it, Duan Qingshan was her everything. Therefore, when she saw Duan Qingshan's meridians being crippled and he could no longer practice martial arts, Gu Qizi felt like she was going crazy. She did not care about anything else. She only had one thought in her mind, and that was to kill Yunjian. It was all because of her that her brother Chen had become like this. However, Gu Qizi was no match for Yunjian. The second before Gu Qizi stabbed her knife at Yunjian, Yunjian kicked Gu Qizi away. At the same time, the knife in Gu Qizi's hand fell to the ground with a crisp sound. It was also at this moment that Yunjian's cold voice rang out. It was enough to reach everyone's heart. Here I keep my word. Since you dared to make a bet, you have to fulfill your promise. Yunjian's words were directed at Gu Qizi. It was not her or Ce who ruined Duan Qingshan, but Duan Qingshan who ruined himself. Since you don't have the ability, why put on a brave front? Since you put on a brave front, you have to pay for your actions. With that, Yunjian paused. At that moment, Yunjian was standing in front of the 6 members of Team Monarch. She looked up and a glint flashed across her eyes. She paused for 2 seconds before continuing to say something that made everyone's blood boil. Team Monarch is under my protection. If anyone dares to challenge my authority in the future, they'll be my enemy. Chapter 11:31. It wasn't the first time that Adam had come to Lan Su's place to beg for forgiveness. However, Lan Su had closed the door and refused to see anyone. Of course, Adam could easily enter the house through other methods, but he didn't. He felt that if he did that, Lan Su would be even more disgusted with him. However, Adam had been coming to Lan Su's house every day to beg for forgiveness. When he came over today, he saw that Lan Su's front door was wide open. He thought that Lan Su had forgiven him, but he didn't expect that the young mistress was here. "Oh, young mistress, so you're here." Adam paused for a moment, then walked in from outside the house. Although that was what he said, Adam was actually thinking in his heart, "Young mistress, you came at such a bad time." Yunjian's lips curved slightly. She calmly replied, then turned to look at Lan Su. Looking at Lan Su, Yunjian opened her mouth and said, "Prepare your things. We'll leave at 5:30 tomorrow." With that, Yunjian used a thought-provoking gaze to sweep over Lan Su and Adam, then she turned around and left. "Hey Yunjian, don't go." Seeing that Yunjian had walked out of her house while Adam was still there, Lan Su shouted, wanting to chase after Yunjian and pull her back. However, Lan Su was stopped by Adam. Lan Su could only watch as Yunjian left. "I haven't seen you in a long time, woman. How can you be so heartless?" Adam grabbed Lan Su's wrist. He stared at Lan Su for 2 seconds. After a while, he suddenly pulled Lan Su into his arms and hugged her. Yunjian had come over to inform Lan Su of the departure time. Now that she had said what she wanted to say, she retreated. The next day came as promised. Yunjian had to leave Longmen City for a while and told Qin Yiru that she was going to visit Si Yi's house, so she would only be back after some time. Hearing that Yunjian was going to visit Si Yi's house, Qin Yiru wanted to go with her no matter what. However, she was tricked by Yunjian with a lie, so she did not tag along. Early in the morning, Qin Yiru made a few steamed buns for Yunjian. Yunjian and Lan Su had agreed to meet at East Bus Station. Once Yunjian arrived, she saw 2 silhouettes standing not far away. It was none other than Lan Su and Adam. Adam was helping Lan Su carry her heavy luggage. She wondered what happened between the two of them after Yunjian left yesterday. Lan Su's attitude toward Adam was no longer as hostile as before. "Yunjian, this guy is pestering me. Can you chase him away for me?" Lan Su ran over when she saw Yunjian. Her tone, however, did not sound as hostile toward Adam as her words suggested. "Young master asked me to protect young mistress. I won't leave." When Adam heard Lan Su's words, he was afraid that Yunjian would help Lan Su and stop him from going with them, so he quickly stepped forward to speak up for his young master. Yunjian watched their interaction with a small smile and got on the bus with her backpack. "Let's get on. The plane leaves at 6:30. We'll be late," Yunjian said as she flipped her high ponytail over her shoulder and flung it behind her. Lan Su kept quiet and quickly followed Yunjian onto the bus. Departing from the airport, this was Yunjian's second trip to Maryland and Country M after her rebirth. It was almost noon when she got off the plane. There was a time difference between Country Z's Longmen City and Country M's Maryland. It was around noon in China, but it was around 5 in the evening when she arrived in Maryland. Chapter 1132. She thought that Yunjian was visiting Si Yi's house, and Qin Yiru knew that Yunjian would pass by Maryland and Country M, which was also the university Guxian was studying in. Qin Yiru was a considerate mother. Even if she was not Guxian's biological mother, she felt that she was obligated to treat Guxian well since she was married to Gu Junjian. Moreover, Guxian was treating Qin Yiru very well. During Qin Yiru's wedding the last time, Guxian had even brought back an expensive gift for Qin Yiru from abroad. Qin Yiru had only asked Yunjian to bring some hometown dishes for Guxian since Qin Yiru had heard from Guxian that he missed the taste of his hometown when he was abroad. University students usually spent more time in their dorms. Yunjian came to Guxian's university and stood downstairs of Guxian's male dormitory with a few bottles filled with Longmen City's local specialties. Guxian came running out of the dormitory in no time. He was accompanied by a few other Chinese who had also come from Country Z to study here. When Yunjian came the last time, Guxian's best buddies, Dan Tianxing, Wu Dezhuang and Zhu Zilin were not present. It was not hard to imagine that Dan Tianxing and the rest were not in the same dormitory as Guxian. The 3 men who came out with Guxian today were obviously Guxian's roommates. "Mom asked me to bring them to you." When Yunjian saw Guxian, she passed the Longmen City's local specialties that Qin Yiru had personally pickled in a bottle to Guxian. Seeing the pretty girl coming to Guxian's dormitory for him, Guxian's 3 roommates chuckled. Oh, Guxian. I didn't expect a girl to come all the way here just to give you a token of love." What a surprise. Guxian's 3 male roommates put their arms around each other's shoulders, grinning more exaggeratedly than if they had just eaten honey. Teenagers of this age paid special attention to the actions of the opposite sex, so the trio who did not know what was going on laughed even more exaggeratedly. Guxian did not get along with his 3 roommates. However, he was displeased when he heard them talking about him and Yunjian in such a misunderstood tone. "Don't spout nonsense. This is my younger sister. Gu Xian grumbled at his 3 roommates before he turned to look at Yun Jian. Younger sister, is there anything you need from coming all the way here? Gu Xian's tone was gentler. Since Yun Jian's summer break ended early while Gu Xian's university's summer break ended later, Gu Xian was still on campus. I'm here to have fun, Yun Jian replied. Oh, little girl, you actually came all the way from country Z to country M to have fun? How old are you this year? Do you want to go out and have fun with us? Gu Xian's 3 roommates were indeed not decent people. One of them had a flat nose and was not particularly good looking, but he was quite tall. He looked at Yun Jian and said casually, Zhang Jiangui, my younger sister is not that kind of person. She won't fool around with you. Gu Xian frowned and stopped the trio from looking at Yun Jian with ill intentions. Tisk, look at what you're saying. Gu Xian, we're not fooling around this time. The 3 of us have applied for Hagi Company's recruitment and are going for an interview now. The Hagi Company is one of the top 10 international corporations. I invited your younger sister to go with me because I want to bring her out to see the world. Hey, look at you. You're really too ignorant. When Zhang Jiangui heard this, he raised his head proudly and said confidently, that's right. It was as if being able to go for an interview with the famous Hagi Company was something to be proud of. Hagi Company? Yun Jian arched a brow, her lips curving into a smile. What a coincidence. Hey little girl, you know about it too, right? Big brother will bring you out to see the world. Do you want to come? Zhang Jiangui said proudly when he saw that Yun Jian knew about Hagi Company. Gu Xian paused then said, I'll go too. Since Gu Xian wanted to go, Zhang Jiangui and the other 2 naturally did not stop him. After putting the bottles of pickled vegetables back in the dormitory, the group of them headed to Hagi's company. The summer vacation was scorching hot. The sun was high up in the sky and just walking on the streets was enough to make one sweat. Zhang Jiangui was dying from the heat. He glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of his eye. Because he wanted to show off his abs, he had already taken off his shirt and hung it over his shoulder. Seeing that Yun Jian did not look at him, Zhang Jiangui walked over and asked Yun Jian, Little girl, it's so hot today. Do you want to have ice cream to quench your thirst? With that said, Zhang Jiangui did not wait for Yun Jian to answer. As usual, he ordered his roommate, Gu Xian, to run errands for him. Gu Xian, go by me. Just as he said this, Zhang Jiangui suddenly felt that it was embarrassing for him to order Yun Jian's brother to buy things for him in front of her. Thus, Zhang Jiangui went to buy ice cream himself. Chapter 1135. Hearing Gu Xian's words, Zhang Jiangui, who was about to boast, immediately shut his mouth. After being stunned, Zhang Jiangui said faintly, What? That's the CEO of Hagi Company. He's the son of the chairman of Hagi Company and the future heir of Hagi Company. You said that he attended your parents' wedding a while ago? Haha, don't be delusional. How could people like us meet such a big shot like him? You must have mistaken him for someone else. When Zhang Jiangui heard Gu Xian's words, he didn't take them seriously at all. He immediately sneered. Zhang Jiangui laughed and the 2 roommates who were in cahoots with him also laughed. Uncle, let's go to the interview place. After laughing, Zhang Jiangui led the way to the interview place. Hagi Company was one of the top 10 international corporations. Like Rongyao Company, it gathered elites and talents from all walks of life throughout the year. Therefore, there was an independent space that was specially decorated as an interview place. Outside of this independent space, there was also a waiting room before the interview. As soon as they walked into the waiting room, they were surrounded by young people waiting for the interview. At this time, they were all very anxious and were obviously worried about whether they could pass the interview smoothly. Little girl, do you see it? This is the interview place of a big company. How is it? Amazing, right? Zhang Jiangui continued to boast to Yun Jian in high spirits, but he was very anxious at this moment. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. The waiting room before the interview was only separated from the corridor by a floor-to-ceiling glass window. From here, one could look through the glass window and see the closed door across the corridor. Are you curious? Do you know where that place is? Seeing that Yun Jian ignored him and looked at the closed door across the corridor, Zhang Jiangui walked over and said. Yun Jian still ignored him. She naturally knew where that place was. From the moment she heard that Zhang Jiangui and his group were going to interview at Hagi Company, she already knew the structure of this place like the back of her hand. It could even be said that the reason she agreed to enter the company with Zhang Jiangui and his group today was because she knew that opposite the interview waiting room was. That's the meeting room for the leaders of Hagi Company. Zhang Jiangui continued to boast. Even if Yun Jian ignored him, he couldn't stop bragging. Do you know why the CEO of Hagi Company was here? Hey, they're having a meeting over there. It's said to be a very important board meeting. Oh? Does that mean the chairman of Hagi Company will also be here? Zhang Jinggui's roommate also exclaimed in surprise. That's right. After the board meeting, we might have a chance to see the chairman of Hagi Company. Zhang Jinggui gestured exaggeratedly. Chapter 1136. Zhang Jinggui and his uncle hurriedly ran in front of Yun Jian to stop her. Zhang Jinggui even lowered his voice and said to her. The reason he lowered his voice was because he was afraid that the Hagi Company board members in the meeting room would hear the noise outside and come out to chase them away. If that happened, Zhang Jinggui might not even be able to pass the interview. If they disturbed the board meeting, even Zhang Jinggui's uncle, who had already become an official employee of Hagi Company, would probably be fired. Compared to Zhang Jinggui and his uncle's exaggerated behavior, Guxian narrowed his eyes slightly and did not stop them. He knew that his sister was not an ordinary person. This was obvious when she admitted that she was the Racer SS and knew the Witch, the chairman of Rongyao Company. The Witch, the chairman of Rongyao Company who was famous for her racing, actually stopped racing for a few years because of Yun Jian and SS. This was the legendary friendship. For a person to do this for another person, it was definitely not something that could be done between strangers. Therefore, Guxian thought that his sister was definitely not an ordinary person. Therefore he did not stop them and just stood aside and watched. Seeing Zhang Jinggui and his uncle standing in front of her, Yun Jian frowned slightly in annoyance. Then she raised her eyebrows and said, I can't go in? After hearing Yun Jian's words, Zhang Jinggui almost shouted at Yun Jian. However, because Yun Jian was beautiful and he wanted to pursue her, he suppressed the urge to beat Yun Jian up. Of course you can't go in. The people sitting here are all the leaders of Hagi Company. And today's board meeting is personally supported by the chairman of Hagi Company. If you go in you'll be screwed. Zhang Jinggui suppressed his anger and said to Yun Jian. Just as he said this he was interrupted by Yun Jian. Matt is also in there? Matt? Zhang Jinggui was stunned when he heard the name. Then he immediately realized that Matt was the name of the chairman of Hagi Company. Of course. It's a board meeting today, and it's being presided over by the chairman himself. Zhang Jinggui paused for a moment before continuing. That's it. However, they heard Yun Jian's red lips curl up. Her slightly raised lips, coupled with her exquisite face, made Zhang Jinggui and the group of men mesmerized. For a moment they couldn't react. Yun Jian turned her body slightly and bypassed Zhang Jinggui and his uncle who were blocking her way. She reached out her hand and gently placed it on the door handle. Then she grabbed the door handle and pulled it down. The door creaked, but it didn't open. It was obvious that someone had locked the door. Zhang Jinggui and his uncle were mesmerized by Yun Jian's smile just now. Now that they suddenly saw Yun Jian actually opening the door, the two of them were almost scared out of their wits. His anger could be felt by the board of directors and major shareholders. Chairman, please calm down. Have some water first. One of the shareholders hurriedly poured a glass of water for Maida. Just as he was about to pass it over to Maida, Matt roared even more angrily, drink my ass. Because all of you, correct your mentality. I'll give you half a year. In half a year, I want Rongyao Company to be under Hagi Company's name. Matt was planning to destroy Rongyao Company in half a year. The board of directors and shareholders present were all impressed by Matt's words. However, at this moment, the door was unlocked from the outside with a click, and a beautiful figure came in. At the same time, the owner of this figure looked straight at Matt, and immediately said without hesitation. Chapter 1138. Not long ago when she met Mare and Mai and I at Rongyao Company, Yun Jian asked Mare to pass a message to Matt on her behalf. Tell Matt that if he doesn't want to disappear in the annals of history, he'd better behave himself. If he dares to do anything to Rongyao Company again, he'd better wash his neck and wait for death. Yun Jian knew that Mare must have passed this message to his father, Matt. Furthermore, Maida was holding a board of directors meeting here today, and he had even said those words. What did that mean? It meant that he was unrepentant. Yun Jian hadn't broken in just now, and the meeting room was soundproofed. Logically speaking, Yun Jian, who was standing outside the door, shouldn't have been able to hear the sounds in the meeting room. But Yun Jian's ears were sharp. No matter how good the soundproofing was, 1999 wasn't as advanced as the modern era. So, no matter how good the soundproofing was, as long as she listened quietly, she would definitely be able to hear the sounds. Yun Jian heard the sounds just now. That was why she had broken through the door and said those words. Matt, who was standing in front of the board of directors and major shareholders, saw Yun Jian suddenly break in, and his eyelids twitched violently. Who was this little girl who suddenly broke in? Why did he feel like he had heard her say those words somewhere before? Glancing around the room, Yun Jian found that Mare wasn't present. But it didn't matter because Yun Jian's target wasn't Mare. Matt saw Yun Jian, and his experienced face scrunched up tightly. But with decades of business experience, Matt calmed down quickly. Who are you? Matt looked at Yun Jian and asked with a frown. Matt was different from all the successful businessmen and powerful people that Yun Jian had met before. Matt was a businessman who was truly worthy of respect. Yun Jian admitted that if Matt's ambition was a little smaller and he didn't target her Rongyao company, she definitely wouldn't be standing here today to deal with Matt. He even admired this old senior from the bottom of his heart. Unfortunately, in the business world there were no eternal allies. There were only profit-seeking businessmen. He saw with his own eyes that Yun Jian had stepped through the door and talked to the chairman of Hagi Company in such a tone. Zhang Zhenggui and his uncle almost wet their pants. The two of them didn't dare to leave, but they didn't dare to stay either. Even Gu Xian's other two roommates were so scared that they broke out in cold sweat. You don't need to know who I am. Yun Jian simply crossed her arms in front of her chest. Her beautiful body made people's hearts itch for no reason. As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Jian's lazy expression suddenly changed. Her expression became solemn and respectful, and her eyes suddenly reflected a light that made people tremble. In the next second she said, "You just need to know that if Haji Company dares to touch Rongyao Company, I have the ability to make sure that Haji Company won't see tomorrow's sun." Maida's aura was enough to make the board of directors and major shareholders revere him with awe and respect. Moreover, in the eyes of the Taoist businessman, Matt's aura was known to be unyielding. Some people even made a big fuss about Matt's aura, saying that Matt's gaze alone was enough to kill everyone present. But now Yun Jian was standing at the door. She was just a teenage girl, but the aura she exuded was not inferior to Matt's at all. In terms of aura, Yun Jian's arrogance was even more daunting than Matt's. "Dad, is the meeting over yet?" Just as the atmosphere became tense, a tall and slender mare suddenly entered the door, surrounded by bodyguards. When Mare saw Yun Jian, he was completely stunned. After a pause, Mare looked at Yun Jian in shock and said, "I'm sorry." Chapter 1140. Headless Corpse? The people present were all big shots who had been in the business world for decades. How could they not have heard of headless corpses? Yun Jian's words clearly meant that if anyone present dared to say another word, she would turn them into headless corpses. God! No one present would have thought of such cruel words even if they used their brains. But Yun Jian, she actually said it so easily? She was still a young girl who was not even 18 years old yet. The old men present, who were the board of directors and major shareholders, looked at the razor blade on the table in front of them and felt their hair stand on end. After being in the business world for so many years, The board of directors and major shareholders were used to the ups and downs, but they had never seen anything like this before. How could a young girl have such an overbearing aura? When Yun Jian opened her mouth and said those words, everyone present suddenly had an illusion. It was as if they would really become headless corpses if they went against her wishes. At this moment even Matt, who had the strongest aura, could not help but straighten his body. Not to mention Zhang Jiangui and his uncle, as well as Gu Xian's two roommates. Zhang Jiangui and Gu Xian's two roommates felt that they were used to the trifles of the school, and they were also students who messed around. Usually they would participate in some group fights inside and outside the school. Then, a large group of brothers would take them to nightclubs to flirt with beautiful girls. It was also because of this kind of life that Zhang Jiangui and the other two felt that they were invincible. This was because they had a group of powerful brothers behind them. If anyone pisses me off, I will take all my brothers and fight them. This was what Zhang Jiangui had always thought before he saw Yun Jian's exquisite razor blade throwing skills. But until just now, when he saw Yun Jian's real skills, he was completely stunned. More than 10 razor blades, with a wave of her hand, she successfully pierced the table in front of the board of directors and major shareholders, 3 inches into the wood. How many people in this world could achieve such a level of skill? If she threw the razor blade into a person's brain, wouldn't the blade also be 3 inches into the wood? Zhang Jiangui trembled. This was simply not something a person could do. Zhang Jiangui felt that from the moment he started to call Yun Jian little sister until now, he suddenly had an illusion. How was this little sister? This was simply a god. And the previous skill of prying the door. Just as Zhang Jiangui was thinking this, Yun Jian had already arrived in front of Matt. She fixed her eyes on Matt without hiding the killing intent in her eyes. Matt, let me give you one last piece of advice. Chapter 1141. If the Rongyao Company alone was not enough to make Matt afraid, then an assassin organization like the Inferno Ring was enough to make a righteous figure like Matt tremble in fear. Existences like the Rongyao Company and Hagi Company belonged to the righteous forces. Although Matt was the chairman of Hagi Company and belonged to the righteous forces, as the chairman, Matt was able to stabilize Hagi Company's international position until now. It was not difficult to see that Matt must have cooperated with a certain black market force. Therefore, to Matt and his group, the Inferno Ring was definitely not an unfamiliar organization. They knew very well what kind of position the Inferno Ring had in the world. And now that he heard what Yun Jian said just now, it would be strange if Matt was not frightened. Even the black market that Matt cooperated with the chairman of Hagi Company was not on the same level as the Inferno Ring. Not to mention the existence that destroyed the Inferno Ring. Usually, if a righteous force wanted to coexist forever, they would find a black market force to support each other. Of course, these things were definitely done in secret. Matt's Hagi Company naturally had a backer, so it was not difficult to explain why he was so shocked after hearing Yun Jian's words. At this moment, Matt only had one thought in his mind. Could it be that the Rongyao Company's backer was even bigger than Hagi Company's? The underground black market that destroyed the internationally famous assassin organization, the Inferno Ring, was it not? What is the Inferno Ring? At the moment when the atmosphere was unusually heavy, Zhang Jingui's desperate voice sounded weakly. He suddenly had an impulse to claim credit in front of the chairman of Hagi Company, Matt. Or perhaps he wanted to attract Matt's attention. As long as he attracted Matt's attention, he would not have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of his life. Therefore Zhang Jingui rolled his eyes and immediately thought of some flattering words. Then he turned to look at Merd with his big round eyes and immediately blurted out, "Merd, you're right. Chairman, you are the big boss of Hagi Company. That Inferno Ring is nothing. In the entire state of Maryland, oh no, in the entire world, who can be your opponent? A mere Inferno Ring, you can crush it with a single kick. My roommates and I worship you so much." When Zhang Jiangui wanted to continue speaking, Matt suddenly grabbed a pen holder on the long table and viciously threw it at Zhang Jiangui, who was standing at the door. The pen holder, along with the pens inside, spilled out, and was smashed onto Zhang Jingui's head from afar. Zhang Jiangui did not even dare to howl. He forcefully endured the pain, but then he heard Matt's furious voice sounded, "Inferno Ring's presence is second only to an Hun Group and Gusha mercenaries internationally. Even if Inferno Ring is annihilated, Hagi Holdings wouldn't dare to boast in such a tone. What you just said, if I hear half of it from someone else's mouth in the future, you're finished. Security, immediately take this person out of the company, and never let him enter Hagi Company's door for the rest of his life." Matt roared furiously. Just because of Zhang Jingui's words, Zhang Jingui completely ruined his future. Zhang Jingui was stunned. He did not expect Matt to be so afraid of that Inferno ring. In fact, Matt was not afraid of the Inferno ring, but he was afraid that if Hagi Company's reputation of stepping on the Inferno ring spread, the strong people in the world would not be convinced. Especially if an Hun and Kosha mercenaries heard this, they would be unhappy and would want to kill him. It would be a piece of cake to destroy the decades of hard work of his Hagi Company in a day. Chapter 1142. Zhang Jinggui did not expect that he would end up like this just because he wanted to curry favor with Matt. Zhang Jinggui was still in a daze even after he was dragged out. As Zhang Jinggui's uncle, he did not dare to make a sound. If he made a sound, it would mean that he was related to Zhang Jinggui and he would lose his job. One had to know that he had used a lot of connections to get into Hagi's company. If he was fired now, where would he find a better job than Hagi's company? Matt, we can talk about our business now. Just as Maida was about to lose control of his anger, Yun Jian smirked and walked to the side of the conference room to pull out a stool. She sat down with her legs crossed and spoke leisurely. Matt frowned when he saw Yun Jian sitting down as if she was in her own territory. He walked over to Yun Jian. What do you want? Matt had to look at Yun Jian in a new light. This young lady was not to be trifled with. I don't have much patience, Yun Jian said. She reached out and rubbed her fingertips on the armrest of the table. As she spoke, she lowered her head to look at the floor. Her pretty face, paired with her long eyelashes, drew a gasp from everyone present. Yun Jian continued, I don't like to beat around the bush. I'll tell you directly. The Kosha mercenaries are behind the Rongyao company. Matt, if you dare to touch my Rongyao company, you'll be making an enemy out of the Kosha mercenaries. Yun Jian suddenly stood up when she said this. That's all I have to say. Think about it carefully. Yun Jian made a strange red arc with her lips. She turned around and walked out of the conference room. Before she left, Yun Jian waved at Gu Xian. Seeing this, Gu Xian followed him out in a daze. The group of old men, including Zhang Jinggui's uncle and Gu Xian's two roommates, were all stunned. After a moment of silence, a major shareholder suddenly said, No wonder she's not afraid of the Rongyao company. The Kosha mercenaries are behind the Rongyao company. Not to mention this major shareholder, even Maida himself was scared out of his wits. Just when everyone thought that Maida wouldn't say a single word, he sighed heavily and said with a heavy sigh, That's right, Maida. From today onwards, withdraw the project to suppress the Rongyao company. No one is allowed to lay a hand on the Rongyao company. Kosha mercenaries. He could not afford to offend them. Gu Xian, who walked out of Hagi company, was still in a state of shock. Sister Yu, Gu Xian wanted to ask about the doubts in his heart, but Yun Jian's voice continued, Show brother, keep it a secret. Yun Jian smiled and said, In the future if you encounter any problems in Maryland, you can ask the Rongyao company's president for help. Gu Xian was stunned by Yun Jian's words, but he nodded involuntarily. Although he was full of doubts, he did not ask further. Chapter 1143. Haha, Sister Jian, where are you heading to? Seeing Yun Jian enter the office, a luring demon stood up from her desk and went to Yun Jian, asking as she did so. To a good place. Yun Jian answered with a chuckle and told alluring demon, I've warned Matt. If he dares to target Rongyao Company again, I'll annihilate him once and for all when I come back. Yun Jian's expression was cold when she said the latter half of the sentence, not looking like she was joking at all. Ha, Sister Jian is indeed domineering. Even alluring demon could not help exclaiming. Following Yun Jian back then was the best decision she had ever made in her life. When Rongyao Company had just started, Yun Jian was still a girl of 13 or 14 years old. Her age was hardly convincing. However, alluring demon was already at her wits' end back then. Her father's company had gone bankrupt and was in huge debt. Unable to repay the debt, the group of people who came to alluring demon's house to collect the debt had even set their sights on her. Those people were inhumane. They even wanted to defile her in front of her parents. Alluring demon was a tough nut to crack. She was so desperate that she was ready to bite her tongue and commit suicide. At the most desperate moment, before those people could do anything to her, Yun Jian appeared. Alluring demon thought that she would never forget that scene for the rest of her life. At 13 or 14 years old, Yun Jian, who had yet to lose her childishness, was like a grim reaper. She killed the group of people and stared at alluring demon with a cold gaze. Then she extended her hands to alluring demon and said something that changed alluring demon's fate. Are you willing to follow me? Let's go. Your office should be renovated. Remember to prepare some snacks when I come over next time. Yun Jian rubbed her empty stomach and gestured to Adam and Lan Su, interrupting alluring demon's reminiscence. Watching Yun Jian walk out of the office, the demoness took a step forward. However, she stopped in her tracks and stood in the same spot as she watched Yun Jian and the other two's figures gradually disappear into the distance. I, demoness, will follow you for the rest of my life. After Yun Jian left the office, demoness' soft voice suddenly sounded. As the last word fell, the echoing sound in the empty office gradually faded until it disappeared. Country A southern country. This was the second time that Yun Jian had come here. Country A's economic level was relatively backward, so when Yun Jian, Lan Su and Adam arrived, there was not even a hotel within a radius of 8 miles. Finally they found a hotel in a relatively lively village. CE hadn't arrived yet, so Yun Jian and the others had to stay here for a while. Chapter 1144. Country A was a backward country. At the same time, the laws in Country A were not perfect. If this was Country Z, if such crimes like rape, theft and murder happened, police officers would have come out early to investigate. Then the culprit would be arrested and brought to justice. Therefore, the people of Country Z, whether it was 1999 or now, could not understand the backward living environment of Country A. There were even some foreigners who died in Country A, but no one called the police. Country A was such a country. Yun Jian was standing at the front desk. After hearing Eliza's words, she understood it quite well. Yun Jian nodded silently. Okay, thank you. Eliza reminded her out of kindness. Yun Jian naturally had to express her gratitude. Eliza was not only a beautiful girl, but more importantly, she had a kind heart. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Eliza smiled and nodded at Yun Jian. Then Yun Jian asked Eliza some things in Country A's language. Eliza replied to all of them. Eliza's parents had gone out to the market. As they chatted, Yun Jian heard Eliza talk about her family. Eliza's parents were farmers. Today they brought the things they made to the market to sell to earn money. Eliza, on the other hand, was at home looking after the hotel. Just as the two of them were talking, a restless voice came from outside the door. Oh my God. It's all your fault. You had to travel during the summer vacation to this godforsaken place. After walking for so long and almost dying in the desert, you finally found a hotel. Little Chu, this isn't my fault. They insisted on organizing this trip to Country A. They even said that they were here to look for treasures. I don't think there's even a ghost here. What attracted Yun Jian was that this group of noisy voices were conversing in Chinese. Country Z? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She did not expect to meet people from her own country in a place like Country A. At this moment, 5 young people in their 20s dressed as university students walked in through the door. Among them there were 2 women and 3 men. The man and woman walking at the very front were undoubtedly the 2 people who had spoken just now. Suddenly seeing Yun Jian's face, which was unique to her country, a girl walking behind her was pleasantly surprised. Then she walked over and asked Yun Jian in a calm but excited tone, "Are you from Z?" She paused for a moment. Seeing that Yun Jian was ignoring her, the girl pointed at herself and introduced herself. My name is Ningxia. That girl is my friend. Her name is Lin Xiaochu, and Ningxia pointed at the people behind her and introduced them one by one. Then, she had the same feeling of joy as when she met people from abroad. She looked at Yun Jian with expectant eyes. Meeting people from his own country abroad, especially in a place where there were very few people from his own country, was a very happy occasion. Yun Jian. Chapter 1145. Little Chu, how can you be like this? Even Ningxia felt embarrassed when she heard little Chu Lin's tone. Ningxia turned to look at Yun Jian and said apologetically, Yun Jian, I'm sorry. Little Chu is like this. Please don't lower yourself to her level. Who's lower herself to whose level? Ningxia, whose good friend are you? Who are you helping? Little Chu Lin shouted angrily when she heard Ningxia's words. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She did have a good impression of Ningxia. As for this girl called Little Chu Lin, she couldn't be bothered to pay attention to her at first glance. Although Little Chu Lin was Ningxia's good friend, she put Ningxia in a difficult position. However, at this moment, a female voice with Chinese pronunciation that wasn't very accurate rang out. Stop arguing, I can understand a bit of Chinese. Yun Jian looked back slightly. She saw Eliza wrap herself in a robe. Eliza used the robe to cover her face and nose, only revealing a pair of black eyes. Then she spoke. Eliza could speak Chinese? However, Yun Jian wasn't very surprised. The people who were surprised were Ningxia, Little Chu Lin, and the other four. Especially Little Chu Lin. She looked at Eliza in surprise. When she came back to her senses, Little Chu Lin shouted at Eliza angrily, You know Chinese? My maternal grandmother is from Z country, so I know a bit of Chinese, Eliza said slowly in a rather unfamiliar tone. Since you know Chinese, why didn't you say so earlier? You did it on purpose, didn't you? Little Chu Lin shouted. Did it on purpose? What do you mean? I only know a bit of Chinese. Eliza only knew a little, so she couldn't completely understand Little Chu Lin's words. Hello, we want to check into a hotel. Just as Little Chu Lin was about to continue to act out, a tall boy with outstanding looks stepped out to resolve the awkwardness. Okay. Eliza understood and immediately arranged for Ningxia's group to check in. At this moment, Yun Jian could clearly see Lin Xiaochu's arrogant attitude immediately vanish the moment the boy who stepped forward to resolve the awkward situation spoke. On the contrary, Lin Xiaochu raised her eyes to look at the boy, revealing a shy expression of a little girl. The guy who stood up to defuse the awkward atmosphere went up to Yun Jian to introduce himself and ask after he was done with the procedure. Hello little girl, my name is Hu Chirue. Just now my junior sister was rude to you. I apologize to you here. Also I want to ask you, are you alone? Are you planning to go to the tomb like us? Within a radius of 8 miles, there was only one ancient tomb. When foreigners came they would usually go to the ancient tomb. Not alone. Yun Jian answered the previous question. Lan Su and Adam were resting upstairs, so Hu Chirue thought that Yun Jian was alone. Senior Rue, this girl clearly doesn't want to talk to us. Why are you talking to her? Little Chu Lin fiercely glared at Yun Jian who was talking to Hu Chirue. However, because Little Chu Lin was talking to Hu Chirue, her voice carried a hint of coquettishness. Hu Chirue opened his mouth but in the end he didn't say anything. At this moment, Eliza told Ningxia, Little Chu Lin, and the others what she told Yun Jian before, that Hassa village wasn't very peaceful. After hearing Eliza's words, Little Chu Lin suddenly looked at Yun Jian proudly, then said in a boastful tone, The 5 of us aren't afraid. We're all from the university's Taekwondo club. Chapter 1146. As Lin Xiaochu spoke, she purposely turned her head to glance at Yun Jian. That expression, that look, it was as if she was saying that we know Taekwondo, but what about you? You don't know anything. Just wait for the robbers to come crying to you. Xiaochu, don't say that. My current abilities are only enough to hang around in our university. When I really step out into society, I'm still useless. Hu Chirue was very tactful and knew his limits. However, as soon as Hu Chirue finished speaking, Lin Xiaochu continued, Senior Rue, you're too humble. As Lin Xiaochu spoke, she turned her head to look at Yun Jian. Her eyes were filled with a strong sense of provocation. After 2 seconds of silence, Lin Xiaochu said, If something happens, don't beg Senior Rue or us to save you. Yun Jian lightly glanced at Lin Xiaochu, then she turned around and went upstairs. Yun Jian usually ignored these kinds of people. Tiske, what's there to be proud of? Lin Xiaochu saw this and began to say a few more words. However, as soon as Lin Xiaochu finished speaking, Hu Chirui reprimanded Lin Xiaochu. "Xiaochu, don't be so rude." Lin Xiaochu listened to Hu Chirui's words very much. After all, Lin Xiaochu had special feelings for Hu Chirui. For a moment, everyone was speechless. At this moment, Yun Jian had already returned to the second floor. Although this hotel was quite shabby, there were quite a lot of rooms. Yun Jian and Lan Su shared a room while Adam had his own room. Not long after Yun Jian returned to her room, Hu Chirui and the others noisily moved their luggage upstairs. They stayed in a room not far from Yun Jian's room. The night quickly darkened. This hotel didn't have any electric lights, and usually relied on candles for illumination. Now Yun Jian was lying on the bed, looking up at the stars and moon through the broken window that couldn't block the cold wind from blowing in from outside. There was no internet in Country A, so she couldn't make calls. "Yun Jian, you're not asleep yet?" Lan Su turned over and moved closer to Yun Jian. "Okay," Yun Jian answered softly. There was silence for 2 seconds. Just when Lan Su thought that she would not speak again, Yun Jian said faintly, "I'm going to sleep." Just as Yun Jian was about to close her beautiful eyes, she seemed to hear something. That pair of long and narrow eyelashes didn't even have time to close before they suddenly opened. "Yun Jian, there's a sound." Lan Su also opened her eyes. The two of them instantly lost their drowsiness. Yun Jian nodded lightly, then whispered to Lan Su, "Sleep." The word, sleep, naturally referred to pretending to be asleep. Lan Su had followed Yun Jian for so long, so she naturally understood immediately. At that moment, Yun Jian and Lan Su closed their eyes. In the darkness, the door that was on the verge of collapsing and didn't have a lock was opened. A dark figure slipped in through the door as quietly as possible. Chapter 1147. The moment Yun Jian kicked him, Lan Su rolled over on the bed and stood up. He then lit up the candles in the room. Adam, who was in the next room, ran over as well. Adam had come over when he heard the commotion. When he saw the rapist who was curled up into a ball from Yun Jian's kick and could barely breathe, he dashed over to grab the man. Then Adam directly punched the flower thief in the head, knocking him out on the spot. "It's really not peaceful here," Yun Jian said calmly with her arms crossed. At the same time, Yun Jian smirked and said, "He has an accomplice. Let's go out and watch the show." They were just a few rapists and robbers. Did they really think they could take her down? When she was the secret agent slaying God, Yun Jian had been hunted down thousands of times by various top assassins and people on the international rankings. Therefore, she usually did not sleep well at night. As Yun Jian spoke, she had already reached the door of the dilapidated bedroom. Just as she reached the door, she turned sideways and said to Adam, "Bring them out." The same thing happened in Yun Jian and Lan Su's bedroom, Ningxia and Lin Xiaochu's bedroom, Hu Chirui and the other two boys' bedroom, as well as the hotel's owner, his wife, and Eliza's room. This group of robbers was not alone. They were in a group. At this moment, Lin Xiaochu had already been dragged to the entrance by a man whose face couldn't be seen. Lin Xiaochu shook her fair legs as the robber rushed her out of the room. At this moment, Hu Chirui and the rest arrived at the staircase and saw Lin Xiaochu being taken away. "Xiaochu!" Hu Chirui and the other two shouted. Ningxia was lucky because she did not sleep naked like Lin Xiaochu. That was why the man chose Lin Xiaochu instead of her. "Ah! Let go of me! Let go of me!" Just then, another robber rushed out of the room with Eliza in his arms. Eliza's parents chased after her with all their might, shouting, "Don't! Please let my daughter go. I beg you." Eliza's parents had just chased after them when they were kicked away by the group of criminals. This group of criminals had clearly planned this. They had captured Lin Xiaochu and Eliza, but they had left behind a few people to stop Eliza's parents and Hu Chirui's trio. Damn it! Hu Chirui and the other two quickly clashed with this group of criminals. Soon, Hu Chirui and the other two were drenched in sweat. They were at a disadvantage. Hu Chirui and the other two were about to lose to these well-prepared criminals. On the other hand, Hu Chirui and the other two were entangled by several criminals. One of the criminals rushed forward and grabbed Ningxia, intending to take him away as well. Swish! Everyone present only heard the sound of a saber flying through the air. In the blink of an eye, the criminal who had wanted to take Ningxia away was struck in the temple by a butterfly knife. He died on the spot, his eyes wide open. Everyone present was shocked by this turn of events, and they were all dumbfounded. Even the remaining criminals at the back were so shocked by this scene that they stopped what they were doing. Bam! Before everyone present could react, they heard the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Everyone saw Adam tossing the rapist who had wanted to attack Yun Jian to the ground by the staircase on the second floor. Unlike the battered and exhausted people around her, Yun Jian was currently hugging her chest with her arms. She looked down at the group of people who had suddenly appeared like an outsider. Then her red lips curled up slightly. "Here, thank you for your big gift. I'm returning it to you now." After Yun Jian finished speaking to the criminals, she kicked the unconscious rapist and mercilessly kicked him down the railing on the second floor. He fell straight to the ground floor. The rapist's blood splattered everywhere. Chapter 1148. In the blink of an eye, Yun Jian had killed someone. Moreover, she had killed two people at once. Everyone there was stupefied by Yun Jian's horrifying move, their jaws dropping in bewilderment. After all, Yun Jian was only a teenage girl. Especially today when Hu Chirui and his group were about to check into the hotel, Lin Xiaochu was showing off Hu Chirui and his group's abilities to Yun Jian. At that time, Yun Jian did not dare to refute a single word. At least, that was what Hu Chirui and his group thought. Yun Jian did not dare to refute them at that time. However, until just now, Yun Jian had killed two people in just a few seconds. Everyone present was horrified by her ruthless methods. How was she afraid? How was this what a teenage girl should be like? Coupled with her exquisite throwing knife skills, she was basically a demon. She was the Grim Reaper from hell. You. One of the criminals could not hold it in any longer. He screamed in fright on the spot. It was very obvious that this group of criminals had their eyes on Yun Jian and Hu Chirui's group for a long time. Today they even wanted to snatch the hotel owner's daughter, Eliza, away. After all, Eliza was pretty, and was indeed the ideal target in the hearts of men. However, based on the original plan today, this group of criminals had even planned who would be the easiest to target and who would be the hardest to target. In the end, they came to the conclusion that Yun Jian was the easiest to target. Because she was the youngest, and her appearance was not the mature type. At most, she could only be considered delicate and pretty. However, there was no doubt that Yun Jian's appearance was the most outstanding among the group of women. Although she did not have the enchanting charm that men liked, she had a delicate and pretty face as well as an exquisite figure. In addition, Yun Jian's figure was big in the areas that should be big, and small in the areas that should be small. She was simply the person that this group of criminals was fighting to get their hands on. Moreover, from the looks of it, she was the easiest to target. However, this group of criminals never expected that Yun Jian, who seemed the easiest to target, would turn out to be a homicidal maniac. She had killed two people in just a few seconds. Hu Chirui and the others were completely dumbfounded. At this moment, one of the criminals who had witnessed Yun Jian's knife-throwing skills, who was obviously the leader, immediately pulled out a shiny pistol from his belt. Gun. Seeing the leader of the criminals pull out a pistol, the hotel couple turned pale with fright. In Country A, handguns were prohibited. It was obvious that this handgun had been brought in illegally. Moreover, the ruler of country A didn't care about anything at all. Therefore, it was understandable that the criminal had a gun. Wuxia and the others were just university students. They used to be ordinary students. How could they have seen something like a real pistol? Therefore, when they saw the leader of the criminals take out a pistol, they were so scared that they stopped moving. Women, step forward. Otherwise, I will kill all of you here. The gangster thought that he had threatened everyone present, including Yunjian, so he spoke arrogantly. Not only did the criminal speak in country A's language, he even spoke in Mandarin. It seemed that this criminal could speak Mandarin. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. She still stood in the distance with her arms crossed. She spoke to the criminals in Mandarin that Wuxia and the others could understand. I'll return the same sentence to you. Today none of you will leave here alive. It had been a long time since she killed someone so freely. In country Z there were laws. In a country like country A, even if she killed someone no one would know. After Yunjian finished speaking, she walked down the stairs step by step with ease. The criminal holding the gun was frightened by Yunjian's aura. Just when the criminal wanted to do something, he saw Yunjian move. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.